Magandang hapon po.
Good afternoon po. Let us pause for a while and put ourselves on the most holy presence of God. Lord, thank you for the gift of life. Thank you for giving us another day and opportunity to perform our mandates. As we tackle our unfinished task, we pray for our brothers who are suffering from the devastating effects of the recent typhoons that aggravated the burden brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. Give them strength to overcome all these trials and challenges. We also pray that you continue to inspire and protect the people who work tirelessly in bringing the relief efforts and hope to our affected brothers and sisters. Please guide us as we deliberate on the important matters before us today. Grant us your wisdom that we may be able to clearly contemplate on every issues at hand and arrive at reasonable and righteous actions in the course of our discussion. We hope that at the end of this meeting, we will be able to resolve all the issues, recommend measures and solutions that will fairly serve the best interests of our constituents and stakeholders. All this we ask in your mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Honorable. Can we request someone to dispense of the roll call?
Mr. Chair, I move to dispense the calling of the roll.
Second.
The reading of the roll call, duly seconded. In objection, hearing none, motion is approved. May I request as well any motion for us to dispense the reading of the minutes of the previous meeting and consider it as approved?
Mickey. I move to dispense the reading of the minutes and the approval of the same.
There's a motion. This is the reading of the meeting on November 11, 2020, and consider as approved. Hearing no objection, motion is approved. The Chair will now acknowledge the members of the House present at maraming salamat po sa panahon po ninyo. We have, of course, the Deputy Speaker, respected Honorable Evi Escudero of the 1st District of Sorsogon. Magandang. The Honorable Londa Bautista Bandigan of the Lone District of Davao Occidental. Good afternoon, Your Honor. The Honorable Angelo Marcos Balba from the 2nd District of Ilocos Norte. Good afternoon, Your Honor. The Honorable Alfred Pascog of the 1st District of Agusan del Sur. The Honorable Precious Hipolito Castelo from the 2nd District of Quezon City. Good afternoon, Your Honor. The Honorable Juni Kua, the Lone District of Quirino, and the Chairperson of Banks and Financial Intermediaries. Good afternoon, Gov. The Honorable Jumel Antonio Espino of the 2nd District of Pangasinan. The Honorable Francisco C. Matugas of the 1st District of Surigao del Norte. The Honorable Elisa Po of the 2nd District of Masbate. Good afternoon, Your Honor. And Rural Development. We have also heard the Honorable Romeo Mamo, Senior of Party List PWS. Good afternoon, Representative Eric Olivarez, credit card mo, District of Parañaque City, the Chairperson of Enterprise and Privatization. Of course, we have here Honorable Gavini Apol Pancho of the 2nd District of Bulacan, the Honorable Florida Reda Robes of the Lone District of San Jose del Monte City, the Honorable Irene Gay Saulog of Party List Kalinga, the Honorable Estelita Swansing of the 1st District of Nueva Ecija. Good afternoon, Your Honor. We also have here Representative Michael Biolago, my sister. Good afternoon, from the 2nd District of Nueva Ecija. Of course, my brother Manuel Zubiri of the 3rd District of Bukidnon. Added on the list, we have, of course, the Honorable Joaquin Chipeco from the Lone District of Calamba. We also have Onyx Crisologo of Quezon City, 1st District. The Honorable Calito Marcos from the 1st District of Aklan. The Honorable Mike Lusutan of the Party List Marino. And of course, the Honorable Marisol Panotis, sorry ma'am, from the 2nd District of Camarines. And finally, the Honorable Strike Revilla of Cavite. Good afternoon, my dear colleagues. Thank you so much for joining the meeting this afternoon. And ComSec, kindly acknowledge those persons present with us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and distinguished members of the committee. For today's meeting, we have the following as resource persons. From the Department of Transportation, we have ASEC Mark Steven Pastor and ASEC Alberto Sansing.
Good afternoon.
The LTFRB, we have Attorney Martin Delgra.
Good afternoon, Chairman.
From the LTO, we have ASEC Edgar Galvante.
Good afternoon, Chairman.
Toll Regulatory Board, we have Engineer Abraham Sales.
Good afternoon, Executive Director.
National Privacy Commission, we have Attorney ISC. From the DICT, we have Mr. Arnold De Castro, Attorney Frederick Espinosa, Ms. Precious Prestosa, and Ms. Jen Caballes. From the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, we have Director Raymond Ischioco, Deputy Director Attorney Leia Irao,
Magandang hapon po. Salamat.
Nixon Cabote. From the DTI, we have Engineer Mario Gaudiano, Engineer Jacqueline Agarpao, and Mr. Edgardo de Rosario. From the National Task Force COVID-19, we have Secretary Vince Dizon.
Good afternoon, sir. Joining us.
From the IAC, we have Colonel Isaias Espino, the head of the Motorcycle Taxi PW Inspection Team.
Po sa inyo.
From the San Miguel Corporation, we have Attorney Mel Tagarda. The Metro Pacific Tollways Corporation, we have Mr. Bobby Bonsha and Attorney Joseph Marigumen. From the bus operators and the bus groups, we have from the PIBOAP, Mr. Alex Yage. From the Mega Manila
Good afternoon, Lex.
we have Engineer Renato Mapili. From the J.
Magandang
Chua
hapon po,
Maritime
Engineer
Corp,
Mapili.
we have Attorney Jeremy Chua. From the ES Consortium, we have Attorney Ismael Baterina. From the Joanna Jess
Good
Transport
afternoon po.
Corporation, we have Jessalyn Mahilak. From the
Magandang hapon po sa inyo.
Manibela, we have Mr. Sandy Hachaso. And from the jeepney groups, we have Mr. Efren De Luna from ACTO.
Magandang hapon kay Efren.
From PEDUDAP, we have Mr. Boy Ribano.
Magandang hapon, Sir Boy.
We have Mr. Modi Floranda.
Magandang hapon po.
And from the motorcycle taxi, we have from Angkas, we have Mr. George Royeca, Sir David
Good afternoon,
Medrano,
George.
Mr. Walter Wong.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Magandang hapon po sa inyo. Salamat po sa pagsali po ninyo.
Noli Iyala, Mr. Edwin
Good
Rodriguez,
afternoon, Ollie.
and Attorney Patrice Lichu. From MOVEit,
Good
we have
afternoon,
Mr.
sir.
Francis Juan. From
Good afternoon,
the
sir. Francis.
Riders Group, we have Mr. Jobert Christian Bulanos from the Motorcycle Rights Organization.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Arturo Santa Cruz from the Motorcycle Philippines Federation.
Good afternoon, Comsec.
From
Good
the
afternoon.
Advocacy Group, we have Mr. Robert C. from the Move as One Coalition and Mr. Jason Salvador from Leader. Mr. Chairman, we are also with us today the members of the media po. That's all for now, Mr.
Magandang
Chairman.
hapon po sa mga taga-media. Salamat po sa pagsali po ninyo sa committee hearing this afternoon. Wala na po ba, Comsec John?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's all for now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Good afternoon again, everyone. The chair with the longer and his opening statement. However, as a reminder for us to have a proper proceeding, pakitingin lang po sa screen. As a reminder, yung video po natin, mute lang sana natin yung system. No? All others, andyan po, the virtual rules po natin. No? The chair finds it important and the urgency of the meeting why I appealed to Chairman Apol Pancho prior to the technical working group meeting. There's an urgency since based on department order of the Department of Transportation, the full utilization of RFID is set this coming December 1. So on this motu proprio inquiry, and of course, for the consideration of House Resolution 1367, filed by the Honorable Precious Hipólito Castel of the 2nd District of Quezon City, resolution urging the Department of Transportation to defer the implementation of cashless toll payments through radio frequency identification or RFID until January 1, 2021. Yung pangalawa naman po, itong update of the resumption of motorcycle taxi pilot study. Tayo po nagpapasalamat at pinintulutan na at simula ngayong araw na ito. To start with, titingnan lang po natin sandali. We go through the numbers. I think this is very important. The number is very important. Sana po ba tayo from the time nagkaroon po tayo ng MECQ or ECQ noong March 17? Pakitingin lang po sa screen natin. On the air transportation, makikita po ninyo, from January to December 2019, 30 million passengers, 528,000. However, January to June of 2020, tingnan nyo po, nasa 5,207,000. Napapakababa po. So, malayo po po tayo transportation kasi ulitin po tayo natin na sa COVID pa rin po tayo. Next slide, please. Domestic scheduled passenger traffic, ito po, January ulitin natin to December 29, domestic po ito. January 5 million, napakababa po. Next slide, please. Arriving total, arriving passenger international, 3 million last year, January. Then, as of the moment, ito po ay karamihan po nung bumalik ngayon, mga OFWs po ito. Kita niyo mo, para bang sinasabi natin, with this monitoring, 558,000, I think 330,000 are OFWs, ibig sabihin po wala po silang trabaho ngayon. Next slide, please. Ito naman po domestic passengers natin. Again, the number states for itself. Next slide, please. And so, of course, pre-COVID, you easily, that's around 350,000 per day. Ngayon po, 150,000 lang. Next slide, please. Provincial buses, yan po numero natin. On PUB, ito magrereklamo si Alex sa akin, hindi pa rin sila pinasisimula. Ginagawa po natin lahat. Ang issue na lang po sa buses, importante po sila, nagkakaroon po ng meeting ang LGUs, kanya-kanya po ang polisiya ng local IATF at ito ina-acknowledge po ng national IATF yung issue. So titingnan po ninyo, the number of units for the buses nationwide, that's around 14,000. However, ang operational lang po, 10,000. Ibig sabihin, 71.31%. Yung iba, hindi na po tumatakbo talaga. Ang susunod po, ito po ang provincial buses. Ayan po, 8,000. Ang tumatakbo po, 680 lang. 8% lang po, kaya in-acknowledge natin. Sa PUJ naman, andyan po si Ka-Efren. Sabihin ko, Efren, ginagawa ko rin pong lahat. 163,000 nung una, 83,000 lang po ngayon, 51% po ang tumatakbo. Sa UV Express po, 24,000, 8,622, 35,20. Wala po tayong masisisi. Ang culprit po nito, ito pong kalaban natin na hindi nakikita, ito pong si COVID-19. Next slide, please. Ito po, this is very important. The number of vehicles all throughout the country, in all regions, 12,725,305. Out of the 12 million, ang nasa ano po, pakibalik lang sa slide. Okay. Ang sa National Capital Region, out of the 12,000, 3 million po. Regions 3, 1.4 million. Region 4A, 1.6 million vehicles within Luzon, NCR, Region 3, Region 4, totaling 6,177,000. That's almost 50% of the total vehicles in the country. Next slide, please. Ship call, mababa, out of 7 million, January, 3 million pa lang po. Makikita talaga ninyo. Napakababa. Ibig sabihin, ano po ang implikasyon? Bakit po di nakikita? Pag wala pong sasakyan ng tao, wala rin po, hindi kikilos po ang ekonomiya po natin. That is po the implication po nito. Next slide, please. MRT1, LRT, 3 pala. Yan po ang si rail. Current daily ridership, na-increase na po ito. Pero tingnan mo po ang numero. Pre-COVID, nasa 1 million po. Suma total, ngayon 170,000. But IATF, nagpapasalamat po tayo. From a 1 meter distance, binabaan na po nila ito and we will be getting the inputs maybe end of this month or December. Thank you po. And by the way, I just want to make an announcement. MRT3, I just want to congratulate the head of office, Tony Capati, Mike Capati, I mean. The train is back to 21 trains with the 3 coaches configuration. Ang speed po nila nasa 50 kilometers bawat oras na. By December, 60 na po sila. I think this management deserves a congratulation from the chair, members of the Committee on Transportation, the members of the 18th Congress. Maraming salamat po sa ginagawa po ninyo. The rest, LRT1, LRT2, PNR management, of course, under June Magno, ang ganda rin po ng management. Congratulations po sa inyo. Next slide, please. Yan po, susunod po. Next slide. Then so that we can start already. We start now. We will now request the offer of House Resolution 1367 for your sponsors of speech. The Honorable Costello is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon po, and all our colleagues, members, as well as our stakeholders for today. So, Mr. Chairman, let me just be clear. So, we are in support of the RFID system or the cashless payment method in our tollways. Just the thrust of this proposed House resolution, Mr. Chairman, is that for us to extend. Kasi po, yung December 1, I feel like December 1 is such a short period of time. So the OTR initially gave the deadline of November 2 for the full implementation of cashless payment method in our tollways. However, since probably because most of our motorists are haven't availed of the RFID cashless payment method, napakahirap po, Mr. Chairman, to avail of it online, on-site. So that is why I'm sure many of us have been helping DOTR, have been helping MPTC as well as South Luzon Expressway para po ma-implement natin yung off-site. But still, I feel that it is still not an ample time for us for the full implementation. So later on in the period of amendments, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to propose na sana we will maintain a cash payment lane habang hindi pa po fully implemented. Because I was informed recently, Mr. Chairman, na kung ang isang sasakyan po, isang motorista ay wala pa pong RFID sticker, they may apply for the RFID sticker on-site, on the spot. Papunta po sila ng SLEX o kaya ng NLEX. However, parang mas magiging mahaba po ang pila nun, hindi po ba? Mas lalo po magiging prone sila sa magkaroon ng physical contact with the people around. Notwithstanding, Mr. Chairman, I was also told na yung consolidation of Easy Trip as well as ito pong isa nating tinatawag natin na RFID ay pag i-consolidate sila at pag dumaan po sa sensor, minsan hindi po nire-read ng sensors ng tollways. So they're having a hard time. Kailangan pong mag-resort into manual method. Lalo pa pong tumatagal at humahaba ang pila at nagkakaroon ng traffic. So just imagine, magpapasko na po, saka natin to implement fully, baka hindi ho tayo handa, mas lalo magkagulo po at magkaproblema sa trapiko, magkaroon ng congestion. Volume of cars and transportation, magpapaila po sa tollways. So, Mr. Chairman, once again, I would like to reiterate, I am in full support of the full implementation. However, sana po ma-extend po yung deadline to January 1. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
before the chair will recognize the different resource persons. Allow the chair first to present what is happening in the parts of the region within the jurisdiction. We have Indonesia, of course, Thailand, Singapore, and Malaysia to compare the country on an apple-to-apple comparison. Ayan, kung makikita po niyo sa Indonesia, nagsimula po sila ng 2017. Ngayon po, full RFID na. Ito po, nakikiusap po ako sa taga-media po, no? At through the media, lahat po, sana naman ma-relay po natin ito doon po sa lahat ng kababayan po natin, lahat po ng mga Pilipino, saan pa talagang direksyon ng Department of Transportation. Ano? Hindi lang po ito sa Pilipinas, nahuhuli na nga po tayo. Ito po ay nakaschedule dapat sa totoo lang. Next year po. Kanya lang sa Secretary Tugad, nung kami po nag-usap, inagahan niya po ito dahil nga po sa pandemya. Iniiwasan niya po ang cash to cash. Yan. Ulitin po natin, sa Indonesia po ay nauna na. Si Thailand po, ayan, nauna na rin. Ano? In fact, unang-una na po si Thailand. Sa kanila, wala na pong bar. Yun ang ambisyon nila. Singapore, same thing, na napunta po tayo 3 years ago. Sa totoo lang, nasusuya po tayo. And Malaysia, of course. No? Ano pong pagkakaiba? Sana na wag akong masamain ng executives ng Department of Transportation. Nangyari po ito sa atin. No? Sana lesson learned. Dapat po nauna muna binibigay natin yung mga kailangan bago implementar ang dapat gawin. No? Ibig sabihin, beep card po, inintroduce po natin ng beep card, wala pa pong beep card. No? Sa kanila po, 1 taon po, binigay na muna mga card bago inintroduce po ang tinatawag natin na cashless transaction. Dito pong sinasabi natin para doon po sa manual ng Department of Transportation, any upgrading of the system, si Chair po at ang Committee on Transportation makikiusap po sana, no? That we level up first the things needed for the system before we introduce the system. Yan po. Kagaya po rito sa RFID, ang tinitingnan ko na lang po, ang sinasabi ko, 6 million vehicles. No? At ako'y na-report, at tatanungin rin natin ang compliance po ng NLEX, SLEX management. Although they're doing everything, kanya lang, napakarami po talaga ng sasakyan. No? Kung pipilitin po natin ito, mag-iingay na naman, at ayaw po natin, kaya nagtutulungan po, ulitin natin, nagtutulungan po si Legislative Branch of Government, the House of Representatives, no, and Department of Transportation. Hindi lang po gagamitin natin ang oversight function, mag-proactive na po tayo. Kung kailangan, gawin, pero pag hindi naman dapat, hindi pa kaya, yun po tayo nakikiusap. So, again, next slide please, para makita. Then we'll request now the Department of Transportation. Ayan po ang volume po nila na pinakita. Balik nga tayo dito sa sa SMC auto sweep. Pre-COVID, the number I think is around 909,000. March to April, they only came out with 159,000, mababa. Pero considering niyo po yung papasok, ulitin 6 na milyon, sana may sistema na po tayo. Then we agree on something that is really something doable, no? Kasama na po kung sino po talaga ang titingin, as what the author said, no, on the House Resolution 1367. Marami po ngayon ang reklamo na ang system po natin ay medyo may problema. Sino po dapat ang magagrado po niyan? In due respect po rito sa Toll Regulatory Board, dapat po sana papasok rin si Department of Trade and Industry at si Department of Communication Technology for them to size up. No? Pag sinabi po nila, go na po yan. Now, the Chair will now recognize the representation from, we start with the Department of Transportation, ASEC. Pastor, you're recognized.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon po to all honorable members of the committee po. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. Mr. Chair, we would just like po to clarify that nung nilabas po yung Department Order 2020-12 nung August po, ito na po talaga ang intensyon ng Department of Transportation even before pa po ng pandemic na mag-full ETC, mag-full cashless transaction po tayo. And at the same time, we would like to emphasize po na based po sa data ng ating mga tollway operators, as compared to cash lanes po, we process over 900 vehicles per hour pag ETC po, RFID, while as compared sa cash lanes po, 300 vehicles per hour po. In other words, Mr. Chair, ma-improve po natin ang travel time, less vehicle wear and tear, and economically wise, mas maganda po ito sa ating ekonomiya, sa negosyante, mas mabilis po ang biyahe, less fuel consumption, and more environment friendly po because of less idling.
Ibig sabihin, ASEC, triple po ang kaya ni RFID kumpara sa cash lane. Tama po ba?
Tama po, Mr. Chair. No?
Please go on.
Opo. Napabilis lang po itong ating implementation ng RFID system ng full cashless po. Gawa nga po ng katulad na nabanggit ninyo, Mr. Chair, is that we are battling an invisible enemy. Ito po yung COVID-19. And if you will, we will consider the dynamics po ng mga gumagamit ng tollways. Usually po, ito po yung magkakasama sa sasakyan ng mahabang panahon. So if you are inflicted with the virus po through the toll gates, it will endanger po yung mga kasama po ninyo sa sasakyan. Lalo na po, we all know na yung mga bumabiyahe papuntang probinsya, usually po magkakamag-anak po yan. So ito po yung gusto naming iwasan. Ayaw po naming magkaroon ng maging transmission vector po ang ating ang tollways po. So the department po set that deadline supposedly ng November 2 para po dito sa ating RFID system. Ngunit in-extend po ito ng ating mahal na secretary ng hanggang December 1. But we have to clarify po, Mr. Chair, na yung deadline po for December 1 is hindi po sa pagbibigay ng RFID sticker, but rather yung ating pong toll operators to comply na magiging RFID lanes na lang po ang meron. So meaning to say po, Mr. Chair, this will be confirmed po by TRB through ED Sales as well as our toll operators na tuloy-tuloy pa rin po ang pagbibigay natin ng RFID stickers natin. In fact, i-intensify pa po ito starting today hanggang December 1 po, and this will continue po hanggang next year na po, no? Hanggang January 11. We have this what we call transition period because we understand birth pains po ito. Meron pong konting adjustment sa ating mga motorista at ito po ay ating pinaghahandaan. Lagi po nating kamiting ang TRB, gayon din po ang ating toll operators. Now, Mr. Chair, if I may go further po, no? Yung December 1 po, katulad po ng nabanggit ko, tuloy-tuloy pa rin po ang pagbibigay ng RFID stickers. In fact po, yung ating toll operators will dedicate 4 lanes at least para po sa tinatawag nilang RFID stickering lanes. So ito po, mapapabilis po yung paggapit sa atin ng ating ng mga RFID stickers sa ating mga sasakyan at papahintulutan ho na pumasok pa rin ho lahat ng sasakyan ho dito, no, para makabitan po ng RFID stickers. And ito po ay magtutuloy-tuloy even after the transition period. Kasi we also acknowledge po, patuloy pong may mga bagong sasakyan po na gamit ng ating expressway.
ASEC Steve, pakiulit nga yung statement mo para maliwanag lang. I'll give you the opportunity, ano, kasi ito pong issue ngayon. No? Ibig sabihin, pagdating po ng December 1, will you still allow vehicles pag wala po siyang RFID pumasok? Kindly, please slow down.
We will allow po, no, na pipila po sila sa RFID lanes po natin, yung nabanggit ko, yung RFID stickering lanes. This will be more or less 4 lanes po sa ating expressway, aside from the off-site and on-site na stickering lanes para po mas marami po yung ma-accommodate natin during this period. So wala pong, basically, Chair, tuloy-tuloy lang po itong pagkakabit po natin ng RFID stickers. It's just that mas intensified po siya ngayon para po ma-accommodate lahat ng ating mga motorista, Mr. Chair. Thank you po.
Thank you, ASEC Steve. The Chair will only recognize 4 resource persons as of the moment to give way for the thorough discussion to be chaired, of course, by the Honorable Apol Pancho on the interoperability. Kaya po nag-create po tayo ng technical working group. Ako'y makikiusap po sa lahat, ano, kasi doon po natin pag-uusapan. Importante lang po itong House Resolution po ng kasamahan natin na si the Honorable Precious Hipolito, that she's asking for January 1. Nasagot po ito at pag-usapan po natin before we do adjourn in the first part of the meeting to give way for the technical working group. Liliwanagin lang po natin through the media po. Nakikinig po sila, and I'm hoping this will be emphasized by our brothers and sisters in the media. Nakikiusap sa chairman the members of the Committee on Transportation, of course, the members of the 18th Congress, Speaker Lord Alan Velasco. Nakikiusap po, pakisabi lang po para hiwala pong gulo. No? Ulitin po natin, sinabi po na ASIC Steve Pastor ng Department of Transportation Land Sector, pahilintulutan pa rin po nilang pumasok, kanya lang bago pong pasok, lalagyan na po kayo ng stickering. So mayroon po silang offline. Yes, the Honorable Pancho, please.
Yes. Mas maganda po siguro, Mr. Chair, since mukhang amenable naman yata sila na continuous yung pagkakabit ng sticker, but hindi po natin isuspend muna yung total na pag-ano sa RFID. Kasi kapag lahat po ng mga toll booths natin, especially coming from Manila or other parts of the, Luzon, ay magkakabit, ang magiging problema po kasi is may tendency na magkaroon ng volume dun sa kung saan may pagkakabit ng RFID. So ang magiging problema na naman po ay yung cost ng traffic. And at the same time, dun sa RFID po kasi ay kailangan din pong isama natin not only the stickering or installing of stickers, but the efficiency of the system itself. Kasi tama po na nakapaglagay na ng mga RFID pero may mga glitches pa po eh. So at meron pa pong pagkukulang on the part ng commuters, yung location po. Isabay na yung pag-extend po natin siguro ng deadline, po natin yung proper education. Tama-tama po, nandito po yung media. Unang-una po ay matulungan po tayo kung paano inform ang mga tao. Doon sa loading lang po. Sabi nga po natin, kasi nag-observe po ako, nakita ko ang daming mga commuters, payment rejected. Sira po system or nag-load sila, pero hindi sila naging ng tamang oras para tumakbo at activate yung account nila. Akala nila loaded na sila. So pagpasok po, yun po yung cause ng traffic. So yung span of time po ng pag-extend natin, Mr. Chair, baka pwede po ay gawin natin na kasama na rin po talaga yung massive na inform yung mga tao, yung mga do's and don'ts pagdating po sa RFID. Plus, na-observe ko rin po kasi nung nandun ako, nakita ko, ang dami po mga gamit sa harap ng dashboard na kung saan po nakalagay yung sticker, yung RFID. So nabablock at nagkakaroon po, nadideflect po siguro yung sensor. So marami pa po dapat na gawin. So dito po sa resolution po ng ating kasama ni Congresswoman Precious ay po, dun sa time na i-extend po natin, kasama na rin po yung proper education. Yun lang po, Mr. Chair.
Salamat po sa napagandang input ninyo, Honorable Apol Pancho. But before the chair will decide on the pleading, allow me first to recognize from the Toll Regulatory Board Executive Director, Sales, for your inputs, please, on House Resolution 1367.
Good afternoon po. Good afternoon po sa lahat po ng members po ng committee. What we can share for today po are the data that we have been gathering for the past weeks, Mr. Chairman. From the reports and from the audit that we conducted, the Toll Regulatory Board, ang numbers po ng vehicles na meron na pong RFID, more than 3.2 million po. More than 3.2 million na po ang may RFID. And ang penetration po ng RFID used po sa expressway, 60 to 70% po ng transaction gumagamit na po ng RFID. And for information also of the body, ang capacity po nung both groups that are installing RFID, they can do up to 30,000 a day po. Via po yung online nila at saka yung kanila pong mga sites. And they would be opening additional sites po in the coming days. Doon naman po sa December 1...
Executive Director Sales, ito na lang tanong natin para consistent sa sinasabi rin na ASIC Steve Pastor. Okay. Ito'y pinag-usapan natin nung huling meeting po natin. Sorry to cut you short, Executive Director. Sinasabi po noon ni former Secretary Manny Bunuan na ang paggamit po simula nung pinalabas po ang memo circular or department order number 12 ata ito, no? Nung to be specific, August Ang una po ay gumagamit lang po ng RFID ay 35% lang po. Tama po ba?
Tama po yun.
Okay. Ngayon, ang sinasabi niyo po ay nasa 70% na po. Ibig sabihin, 100% po, galing ng 35%, nasa 70%, 100% in a span of, sabihin na natin, 4 na buwan. Tama po ba?
Opo, tama po.
September, October, November. 3 buwan lang po. 3 buwan, 3 months. So, ulitin po natin, I will allow you to continue, but we have to get the numbers right in a span of 3 months with an aggressive marketing strategy and stickering events of NLEX and SLEX from a low of 35%, ibig sabihin 35% lang po ang gumagamit ng expressway dati at nag-a-avail po sila ng RFID kung saan po mas mabilis po siya ng 3 times, 3 beses mas mabilis kaysa sa cash. Ngayon po, sa 3 buwan, naangat po nila ito ng 70%. No? At next month po, December, itong araw na December pa, ibig sabihin, medyo malayo pa po kung pag-uusapan po natin ang numero, kailangan po natin maybe another 3 months para ma-attain po natin si more or less a higher percentage. Go on, Executive Director, please.
Yun po, kung ibabase po doon sa mga datos na ganun po, tama po kayo. Pero kung magkakaroon na po ng full implementation po, I believe po na magbabago po yung datos po na yan. At yun pong mga operator, we just met today po with the operators together with the OTR. They made the assurance that they can already handle po yung full implementation po ng contactless and cashless. Meron pong mga contingency plans na katulad po nung nabanggit po ni Asik Pastor na para po i-address po yung mga walang RFID, yung mga entry plazas or before entry plazas po, maglalagay po ng mga installation area or booth para po bigyan po yung mga walang RFID. Not necessarily po yung lahat ng lanes, pero depende po dun sa configuration po ng mga plaza na hindi po magkakaroon po ng traffic dahil po dun sa pag-i-install. Yun po yung naging diskusyon po namin ngayong umaga at tungkol naman po dun sa mga walang RFID na papasok. Katulad din po nung nabanggit po ni Asik Pastor, patatabihin po sila o padadaanin po sila doon sa lane na kung saan po sila lalagyan po ng RFID sticker at mag-i-involve po sila ng kanila pong account. Pero sisiguraduhin din po naman ng mga operator na hindi naman po makakaabala yun po doon sa takbo ng mga trapiko. So ganun po yung napag-usapan. So in other words po, insofar as the operators and we are concerned, ready to go na po by December 1. At yun pong mga concerns na nabanggit at alam naman din po ng mga operator yun. Yun naman din po ay pinaghahandaan din kaya may mga contingency plans at saka mga intensified installations.
Ganito lang, Executive Directors. Lahat po ng kasamahan natin po rito sa meeting, my dear colleagues at my dear resource persons. No? Kami po ay kinatawan ng tao. That's why tinatawag mo kami representatives of the people. Ito po ay napagtutunan ko at parating inulit-ulit na lang po ng mga senior members ng Kamara. Lalo't-lalo na mahal natin na tinatawag natin dati na si Rudy Farinas. As the representatives of the people, kami po tinatakbo ng tao. Kami inalal, pinili po, at kami nakikiusap. Kasi kung may diferensya po, kami po tinatakbuhan sa totoo lang. Gustuhin man namin tumulong po, nagkakaroon po tayong tinatawag win-win formula muna. Kagaya po, kaya mag-a-agree po tayo, hindi po natin babarahin po ito, Executive Director, ulitin po natin, maliwanag kami po sang-ayon. Kanya lang, mas maganda siguro, on a full commitment, lagyan po natin ng timeline, kaya may meeting po tayo rito ngayon. Ano talagang direction? Kagaya po sa NLEX, SLEX, sa main entrance po, sabihin natin kung 10 lane po ang may lane sila, siguro, pwede na siguro sabihin sa mga kasama natin, pwede ba 7 sa RFID, 3 na lang yung cash. No? Tapos sa susunod na buwan, pwede po ba 8 ng RFID, 2 na lang ang cash. Then sa sunod naman, bago po natin pintulutan, may referee po tayo dapat. Ang referee po ay dapat neutral agency. At ang nakikita po namin, na kami nag-uusap-usap mo, alam niyo po, dyan parati, ang suking-suki po rito parati, sa totoo lang, ayan po si Honorable Apol Pancho. Anan po si Honorable Mickey Biolago. Halos gabi, kung ito na naman, problema na naman. Kaya kasi doon po sila umuwi, arawan po dumadaan po sila. Kaya kami nakikiusap sana, no? O, hindi po namin babarahan the reason why we're coming in with the win-win. Wala po tayong sinisisi sa atin lang time na hindi po natin pahihirapan ang mamamayan. Kasi po, dinaanan na po tayo ng volcanic eruption. May pandemya pa. Tinamaan pa tayo ng bagyo. Paano ngayon? Pahihirapan pa natin sila. Paminsan, hindi na po natin sa totoo. Parang gusto na nga natin sumurrender eh. Sa kadami ba naman ng hirap? Sa totoo lang. You know? Kasi ang tingin po nila, pag kami congressman, doon po kami nasasaktan. Allow me to say this, ano? Para po, congressman, magnanakaw na lang. Wag naman po. Wag naman po.
Malinaw naman po yun. Kaya nga po tayo nandito para dyan na rin po yung mga operator. Kasama na rin po kami. Yun lang po yung isi-share po namin sa ngayon po. Information.
We will go to that executive director, but allow me, no, ako, through the media, no, we are doing everything for the people. There might be issues. The reason paminsan sabi ko, is it really worth it to become a public servant? We just have to toe the line. There should be somebody who will be accountable for this, but this representation, the members of the 18th Congress in our meeting, ginagawa po namin ang dapat naman makatulong man lang sa mamamayan. At ako'y nagpapasalamat po. Ulitin ko kay Secretary Arto Gadi. Ayan po si Asik Steve Pastor. Wala po tayong sinisisi. Sana naman biglan natin ng itinatawag na tamang programa, roadmap po. Mag-agree na tayo. Pag sinabi po natin, first quarter of next year, ilan ng buwan na lang po ba? At siguro naman pag-iintindihin ng lahat. Ano? At ibigay po natin sa Department of Trade and Industry at DICT ang referee po. Sila mismo sinasabab, maganda na bang sistema, perfect na po. We write the Committee on Transportation or the Senate to the Department of Transportation, Toll Regulatory Board, that it is now a go. No? Wala na masisisi. You can say, full RFID, binigyan na po natin ang pagkakadaan ang mamamayan. Kagaya ni sinasabi po ni Honorable Apol Pancho kanina, ano po bang issue? Sana magkaisa na po tayo rito. Total naman ang ginagawa naman po natin ay para naman po sa mamamayan. I will now recognize...
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, the Honorable Biolago.
Mr. Chairman, one way of another problem po na nakikita ko siguro, not only because of the lanes, dahil nawala ang cash lane, puro RFID. The other problem is, kaya nagiging decongest ang traffic along expressway because of the machine itself. Kasi may nababasa, may hindi binabasa. Yun po, sana din, sana suggestion ko lang, total pinag-uusapan natin ito. Sana pag-usapan din natin ang quality ng mga machines na meron sila. And hanggang anong extent ang capability ng isang machine. Ilan ang dapat basahin ng isang machine? Ano ang limit ng isang machine? Para po maging maayos. Kasi kung pag-uusapan lang natin dito, yung pagkakabit at yung tamang lane na pupuntahan ng mga ng motorista, pag-usapan din natin yung quality ng machine at yung gaano ang extend ng machine. Kasi po minsan, ako po, sabi ko sa inyo, nagkita tayo kahapon dyan sa Manila, nandito na ako sa Nueva Ecija. So, dumaan na naman ako dyan. May mga machines na hindi nila binabasa yung RFID, hinihingi pa yung card. So, pag hingi pa lang ng card sa iyo, another minute na naman yon. Di po ba? Kasi hahanapin mo, bibigay mo, ibabalik sa iyo yung card. Kaya sana pati yung machines na mga ginagamit, may quality din at malaman din natin kung ano ang extend ng mga machines. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We take note on that, Honorable Biolago. In fact, for interpellation, we have on the list, sabihin ko na, bago natin recognize sila. No? Pero unahin muna natin ang NLEX at SLEX management. Andito po si Honorable Romeo Momo ng party list, napalista po siya. At the Representative Paul Das of the 1st District of Northern Samar. Of course, maliwanag po sinasabi nila, pati po doon sa equipments, ito'y siyempre i-consider po ng Department of Transportation through the Department of Trade and Industry and DICT as to compliance po. We will now recognize the chair, we will now recognize the representation from the NLEX management. You're recognized, please, whoever is on board right now. Maybe you have the president himself, Mr. Kimbo, the attorney Kimbo.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Romulo Kimbo po.
Magandang hapon sa iyo.
I represent Metro Pacific Tollways Corporation, which...
Good afternoon, Mr. Kimbo.
Good afternoon, sir. As you already know, we have several expressway systems under the Metro Pacific Tollways, including the North Luzon Expressway and the Subic-Clark-Tarlac Expressway. We hear the sentiments of the members of the committee, and of course, this also reflect what our ordinary motorists are experiencing at the moment, and we fully understand where they are coming from. We also welcome the idea or the proposition to take a look into the system, the quality of the service that Congresswoman Violago has referred to. We are very much open to the suggestion on how to evaluate and review the quality, etc., of the equipment and the system. That's all fine with us. In today's conference with the regulator and of course the Department of Transportation and the media, we laid out our plans on how we intend to be ready by December 1. So if the committee the chairman will remember.
It's very important. Please, the chair will recognize you as the vital importance, December 1, para maintindihan po through the media.
Opo.
Ano po bang balak natin sa December 1? Pakiulit nga po.
I have a few slides if it will for the benefit of the committee. I can show a few slides. In summary, Mr. Chairman, the system is ready. The organization is ready. And we are talking here about 438,000 average vehicle traffic every day. 438,000 vehicles, what we call the average daily traffic, on an average. And of course, there's a seasonal explanation. Sometimes of the year, this number is higher. But at this time of the year, we are actually at 438,000 average daily traffic. We have already installed.
Mr. Kimbo, before you present your slide, from the chair and the members of the Committee on Transportation, si 438,000 ba? This number, historically, what is the percentage? Mataas po ba siya? Nahihit na po ba ang peak natin?
Mababa po ito, Mr. Chairman. Mababa po ito kasi pandemic po tayo. In other words, we have not yet equaled the average daily traffic of pre-COVID.
Gusto ko na maliwanag. And again, what is the number of the pre-COVID? Ulitin na natin, please.
Today po, na COVID po tayo, we are hitting 438,000 vehicles average daily traffic. Ito po as of November.
On the pre-COVID, I'm asking.
The pre-COVID is about 650,000.
So, napakaganda po ng panahon na ito pinag-usapan natin in preparation kasi palapit na po si vaccine at alam po natin. We are hoping babalik po sa normal.
Yes, of
Kaya
course.
ayoko na sabihin na this is the new normal. Gusto ko pong bumalik talaga ang normal ng buhay ng tao.
Yes,
And once it is back, handa-handa na po tayo. Please go on, Mr. Kimbo, on your presentation.
Thank you. Ito pong slide, kung nakikita na po, I'll just give a few seconds for the loading. This is similar doon sa point kanina of Director Sales. In August, 36% po ang gumagamit ng RFID natin. Noong September, umakyat na po sa 43%. Pagdating po ng October, tumabla na po, 50-50. 50% ang gumagamit po ng RFID, 50% cash. As of last week po, November 17, nasa 65% na po tayo. This was already earlier discussed, no? But we can also show that this also indicates na yung mga mamamayan natin talaga naman nag-a-adjust, no? And they can see the necessity and perhaps the benefit of why an RFID should be used.
Mr. Kimbo, from the chair, allow me, sorry to disrupt you from time to time para diretso, no? Dito pa sa comment ni Honorable Pancho, yung sinasabi niya na upon in the installation of the RFID stickers, to remind the drivers as well na kailangan malinis po, ang walang nilalagay na ibang mga bagay para nababasa po ba ang RFID, sinasabi niyo in education po.
Driver communication po, Mr. Chairman. Tama po si Kong Apol Pancho, at yung driver education yan is very important. Communication po. How to use your RFID, how to behave, how to enter the toll plaza, the toll gate properly. Kayo ba ipapara? Saan ba kayo po pwesto? Lahat po ito are part of the driver communication that we do. Of course, katulong po natin yung media, no? Nag-observe po si Congressman Pancho sa sistema po namin, and we appreciate all the comments. Let me just continue for a few slides lang po.
Please go on. Yes.
So in terms of readiness, the chair will recall na yung mandate po ng Department Order 2020-12 is for the toll operators to be ready for cashless transactions by November 1, if we recall, na move po ng December. So ang amin pong strategy, of course, is to convert all the toll lanes that need to be converted. Lagyan po ng equipment, lagyan po ng scanner, lagyan po ng software, lagyan po ng tao, kasi po may pagkakataon talaga na kailangan may tao doon who will answer questions. Gawa na po yon, tapos na po yon. Ito pong slide na to, pinapakita lang natin. As of November 17, we have installed 1.685 million stickers already, equivalent to 1,445,000 accounts. In other words, whether individual or corporate, meron po tayong 1,445,000 accounts. From August to November, napakita po natin sa chart kanina, ang total po na stickers na na-install po ng Metro Pacific team, 820,514. Tama po kayo, ito pa lang ang panimula from the customer side. Ang natitira po naming target na installation of stickers, 250,000 po. And whether this will be in December 1 or whatever other date that the committee will recommend or what the DOTR will implement, ito po yung nakikita nating so-called balance of stickers, 250,000 po. This slide naman also reflects how we are ready. The Metro Pacific Tollway system is divided into 5 systems. Some systems are bigger, some systems are quite small. For example, yung C5 link po doon sa Taguig, pagtawid pupuntang Merville, isang tuloy lang naman po yon. There are 6 enabled RFID lanes. Pero sa NLEX po, dahil medyo malaki ito, we have 165 enabled RFID lanes. Sa SCTEX, 58 po. Cavitex, 36. Calax, 12. Ito pong column sa kanan, ang tawag po namin dito reserve. Existing po yung mga lanes na yon. In a contingency as absolutely necessary, we will also open and operate itong 77 reserve lanes na kasalukuyan ay cash. In other words, wala pong equipment. Pero madali lang po namin tauhan yan kung kinakailangan. The significance of the 277, Mr. Chair, is that equates to the capacity on a daily basis of the entire system. I already talked about an earlier number, 438,000. The 277 far exceeds the capacity in terms of the requirements of 438,000.
Yeah.
This will even accommodate 650,000. Ito po ang experience po namin, and this is the technical explanation. Ngayon, naririnig po natin ang boses ng mamamayan at hindi naman po tayo we are sensitive, of course, to what is going on. So ang atin pong strategy po dito, aside from installing as many stickers as possible, is to support doon sa toll gate mismo. We are fielding people, ano po ito, mga tauhan po namin ito, 24/7. Ang tawag namin, RFID Assist Squad.
nabanggit po ni Congresswoman kanina na meron pa pong card na hinihingi. Ito po from time to time, kung meron glitch o talaga namang may problema, kukunin po yung card at isa-swipe or itatap lang naman yun. Tama po si Congresswoman. But it also indicates na yung aming service is working. Kasi po, may tao naman talaga sasalo, especially for the 800,000 new customers na medyo hindi pa kabisado paano gumamit ng RFID. So ito pong person to person, this is obviously a temporary measure, hanggang matuto po yung mga kababayan natin paano gumamit. Nandun po ito, 24/7 po yung aming plano dito to field this personnel. Of course, the traffic management is...
And may I ask Mr. Kim?
Go ahead.
Mr. Kimbo, I'm sorry to cut you short. May I ask Mr. Kimbo on the percentage of glitches every day? Sabihin natin dito sa 438,000 every day, no? As a COVID time. What is the percentage of glitch? Matanong ko lang.
In terms of percentage, we adhere to a standard, Mr. Chairman. No? The technology that we are adopting, and of course our counterparts in the South, is called the RFID technology. That technology naman is not new and it's used all over the world. Ang amin pong scanning rate na tinatawag, umaabot po kami ng 98%. And that is equivalent to the global standard. Unfortunately, wala pong 100% eh. Wala po eh. We decided...
Tinanong ko lang po ito kasi, sorry Mr. Kimbo, tinanong ko po ito because I have a record as well on the international standard.
That's correct.
Tama po, ibig sabihin may 2% po tayo na ina-acknowledge na may ito po ay tinatawag na lapse, no? Hindi perfecto po, no? May nagkakaroon talaga ng problema. Please go on.
Tama po yan, Mr. Chairman. Salamat po. So on that preparation for December 1, augmentation po ng crews namin for traffic management. As we all know, ang ating mga motorista, lalo na yung mga baguhan pong gumagamit ng RFID lanes, ngayon pa lang naman sila nasasanay. So kailangan talaga i-guide namin, i-guia natin sila, whether it's a big toll gate or a small toll gate, through signages, through education, at kasama na po yung traffic management. So we are fielding, of course, we're going to prepare for this deadline or what we call the implementation date by providing all these preparations. Ngayon, ang tanong din naman po, how far have we prepared? Actually, for the benefit of the committee, the RFID only, o ito pong 100% operations, we started early as July. But we did not publicize it. We just went through the motions of converting some of the toll gates into all RFID. Of course, we encountered problems on a day-to-day basis. Kasama po doon sa mga observation ni Congresswoman Biolago, but kasama po yung observation na papasok po sa toll lane, wala pong load. Kasama po yon. So how you communicate para sa mga bagong customer natin, wala kong load ngayon, papapasukin kayo namin, pero sa susunod, alam nyo na ang gagawin. Before coming, dapat medyo may konti tayong consciousness na dapat may load tayo. So we started doon sa fringes po ng system namin. Lawang Bato, northbound Valenzuela, Philippine Arena, Ciudad de Victoria, Santa Rita, Giginto, northbound. Ito po mga toll gates, early on po ginawa na naming RFID only operations. Even with those warts and all. So, learning curve din namin po. Learning experience din namin po. Talagang may mga customer tayo na pagpasok doon, hindi handa, nagkamali, honest mistake, kasama po ito. But because of that experience, we gained confidence also. We gained a lot of confidence and we learned a lot of things on how the day-to-day RFID 100% will operate. Ito pong SCTEX, the second part of the slide, Mabiga, Porac, Clark South, Concepcion, ito na po. Nagkaroon din kami ng mga experiences dito, both good and bad, that we of course learned. Hindi na namin pwedeng ulitin. Doon sa South naman, sa Calax, Laguna Boulevard, Laguna Technopark, ito po, we already converted last month pa lang. Ano na siya eh? RFID 100 na siya. Of course, the customers will be surprised or sometimes they will be frustrated, but it's a matter of communicating to them. Once lang naman, pag nalaman how to do it, alam na natin hindi na uulit eh. How do we know that? Because the RFID and cash ratio goes up. In other words, mas madami ang, over time, mas madami ang nagko-comply. So it tells us na successful naman pala yung aming communication. Maybe on the first day, may konti tayong kaguluhan, but in a few weeks' time, the RFID versus cash ratio really dramatically improves. To support the
please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To support the concern that people will still have to be lining up and the lines are long. Yes, that's correct. It's not being denied. We started this online booking system. This is an online reservation system to get your RFID. And this is a simple QR code that's in the social media sites. You take a photo with your phone, the link comes up, you fill it up, you send it back, and they send you a reply QR code. It will give you the time, the place, and the exact date of your choosing. Kayo po ang mamimili ng petsa para sa RFID appointment. As of today, we have over 20,000 appointments booked. So it only goes to show na yung mga tao natin talagang gusto naman mag-comply. If I may just clarify at this point, Mr. Chairman, we do not intend to give or to distribute RFIDs to all. We are saying that the nature and the character of our travelers, the travel patterns, some people travel once a year. Some people travel twice a year. Maybe some people during Christmas and Ulas only. So what we are targeting here, it's a targeted campaign. Let the regular users get the RFIDs first. But we assure those who will not have RFIDs, it's okay. No need to panic buy. You will get your RFID as and when you need it. That's why na-explain po kanina na after December 1, napakita po ni ASEC Steve, na doon sa mga toll gates natin, magtatabi tayo doon ng toll lanes doon para sa mga tao magbabiyahe even after December 1. Yung mga bumili po ng kotse, second hand or bago, doesn't matter. Nung lang sila magbabiyahe, December, they decide. Then okay, we will accommodate them. Ito pong booking system natin will be there as a matter of course. Ito na po hanggang next year, tuloy-tuloy lang po itong booking system natin na by appointment. We also noticed that ito pong mga installation sites natin, these are still ongoing. We have 35 installation sites at 8 po dito 24/7. Any time of the day, pumunta po kayo doon sa 8 stations namin, you will get your RFID. Tama po na habang pila. But there are certain times of the day, minsan po, 2:00 ng hapon, wala na pong tao. Minsan po, 6 p.m., wala na pong tao. And these are 24/7 services. When I explained kanina na yung 277 toll lanes natin are ready, we can easily convert them to 24/7 if necessary. In other words,
Mr. Kimbo, did you aggressively inform the public itong sinasabi mo 35 na stations po natin?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll come to that. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll come to that.
Please
I have
go.
a slide to show that. Outside the expressways naman, we have had total of 361 RFID installation events. We call stickering. Ito po mga homeowners association, mga corporate offices, government agencies, LGUs, organizations, and even in selected malls. There's a breakdown here, and we are happy to show that outside the expressways po, yung mga LGUs po natin, talaga naman po, nagko-contact po sa amin. In Metro Manila alone, 85 events or 85 times kami bumaba sa Metro Manila. Kasama po ang Quezon City dito, kasama na po ang San Juan dito, kasama po ang Manila. Si Yorme po sponsored a 2-day event in Liwasang Bonifacio. It was very successful. In Bulacan po, 11 events na po tayo. In Bataan, 5. Pampanga, 13. Laguna, 10. Tarlac, 9. At ito pong nasa kanan, LTO offices. LTO offices po ito. 46 LTO offices. Nagsagawa po tayo ng pagkakabit po ng...
Itong LTO offices, importante po kasi yan po ang pakiusap ni Speaker Lord Alan Velasco. Buti may programa na para kayo rito. So, please go on.
Ongoing po yun, Mr. Chairman. May konting caveat lang sa LTO office kasi po, ang strategy po natin, drive-through, sometimes po may space limitations. Sobra pong sikip it is not practical to be having the installation program in a very tight place, nawawala po ang social distancing. Medyo that's a logistical issue on the ground. So hindi rin natin naman kaya lahat na gawin, ano, because of
Please go on. Please go on.
Ngayon, we have Homeowners Association, 79. Selected malls, 31 times na po tayo nagkabit. After December 1, ito na po tayo. Ano ba yung gagawin natin after December 1? Well, after December 1, we will continue the 24/7 na pag-install ng RFID. Ito po nakalista po dito. For Cavitex and C5 and Calax, ito pong mga areas na to, 24/7 for walk-in ito, walk-in. For NLEX naman, ito po yung mga rest areas. Alam po natin, may mga gasoline stations po sa NLEX, northbound and southbound. Ito pong mga gasolinahan nito, Petron Marilao, Petron Bukawe, Shell Borol, and Petron Lakeshore. Tuloy-tuloy po ang kanilang pag-i-install even after December 1. Ito po naman for walk-in, NLEX to continue yung Balintawak Toll Plaza natin, that huge toll gate in Balintawak. It's a weighing station. Lalampas lang po kayo ng konti. Kasama po mga trucks dito, classes 2 and 3. Magkakabit po tayo dyan. Then you have Karuhatan in Valenzuela City, a very busy intersection or interchange. Of course, Philippine Arena southbound, Balagtas Toll Plaza, Angeles Easy Trip, 10th. For walk-in po ito. Doon naman sa south, we have identified areas, drive-through Longos Bacoor, Kawit Toll Plaza, Kabiasnan Toll, northbound, Santa Rosa Toll Plaza. Ito po, dire-diretso lang po motorista po dito. Starting today, November 25, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., ni-reserve na po natin yung pinakamalaking toll plaza in Balintawak northbound. Ito po yung toll plaza lanes number 5 to number 9. Ito po, swak na swak po sa gitna ng Balintawak Toll Plaza. I-reserve na po natin yan for RFID installation. Of course, we are aware of the concerns, baka mag-traffic. Well, we will have a traffic management plan para naman hindi maabala yung mga dati na mga RFID at alam naman nila na there's going to be a stickering or an installation process here. So,
Simula ito ngayong araw nito, Mr. Kimbo?
Simula po today.
Okay.
Tuloy-tuloy na po ito. In fact, sabi ko dito sa slide, after December 1, pero today pa lang sinimulan na namin. So naka-reserve na po. In other words, nakaabang na po ito. Itong mga toll lanes na ito para sa stickering tuloy-tuloy. In Tarlac sa north, the SCTEX entry, this is Manila bound. Starting today, naglagay na rin po kami doon on the toll lanes itself. So the motorist doesn't have to look for it. Makikita lang naman yan na may installation. And of course, in the Subic side.
As much as, how long is the presentation?
I have a few more slides, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we will allow, but before you
Mr.
do so...
Mr. Chair,
yes.
Clarification lang po. Itong ginagawa nating para sa toll number 5 to 9, ito going out from Manila?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Congresswoman.
Thank you. Thank you po.
Before you go on, Mr. Kimbo, thank you, Sis Mickey. The Chair will acknowledge first the members of the House present. Interesado po sila, no? Dahil itong maraming reklamo na tatanggap rin kung talagang kaya mo, hindi, no? We have again the Honorable Francisco Matugas of the 1st District of Surigao del Norte, the Honorable Gabriel Bordado of the 3rd District of Camarines Sur, the Honorable Jerry Boy Espina of the Long District of Biliran. We have the Honorable Rene, of course, we should mention like party is Kalinga. The Honorable Rufi Biazon, the Long District of Muntinlupa. May hearing po ate rin si Kong Rufi tungkol sa disgrasya, ibang issue na naman ito, no? We have the Vice Chair, Aloy Salim of Party List RAM, the Vice Chair, of course, Ramon Vico of the 1st District of Pangasinan. Ibang guest po na kasama, the Chair, allow the Chair to acknowledge first Colonel Oliver Tanseco of the Highway Patrol Group, of course, Secretary Vince Dizon of the National Task Force Against COVID-19. Thank you so much, Secretary, for joining us, and Director Neil Katay of the Department of Trade and Industry. Go on, Mr. Kimbo, on the last remaining slides, please, before the Chair will recognize SLEX management and finally the interpellation of the different members of the House.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have remaining 2 slides. So this is just a slide to reflect the communication efforts. As you mentioned earlier, the driver's education all the information that we wanted to be disseminated to all the general public, to the motorists, whether it's in the cash lane or in the toll gate or in the media. We focused on online channels. Of course, we still have the normal press releases in print media, etc. But our latest reckoning, our estimated reach in terms of online channels, we have reached about 9.3 million already. So in terms of actual information out there out there, there's continuing information, there's continuing communication to highlight the benefits, how to get your RFID, where to get it, what time, how to get your appointment. All this information is all out there. We repeat it, we reiterate, and of course, we use our media friends to help us disseminate. For my last slide, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to highlight here that this is really the next normal or the new normal that everybody's talking about in a pandemic. It will be very difficult for us, as you pointed out, to go back to where we came from in terms of transactions, in terms of our travel pattern and our travel behavior. So I'd like to leave the body with this slide, highlighting the benefits of RFID versus cash. Well, it was already mentioned that in terms of processing, we have 900 vehicles an hour compared to 300 vehicles an hour for cash. So that's already said. But we also wanted to convey the message that this supports the anti-COVID pandemic campaign. It really enhances the health and safety of our motorists and of course our toll tellers. It obviously improves travel time. There are no lines. It causes less vehicle wear and tear. There are few stops along the way. Less fuel consumption because there's less engine idling in a traffic situation. And of course, it's environment friendly. But the long-term benefit for the customer is at the bottom is the last point. The customer is able to access his expressway travel information. It gives him a record of his transactions. Of course, that's the financial side. But it also gives him the ability to plan his trip in the future. Whether he's just starting now or he already knows how to do it, whether it's a personal trip or a business trip, getting an account, opening an account, really means a lot to our people moving forward in the future. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much for the presentation, Mr. Kimbo, and thank you for assuring as well the chairman and the members of the committee that you are ready for the full usage of RFID. However, we just have to listen first to the SLEX management on their presentation as well before we open up the floor for some questions from the members of the House. Anyone from the SLEX management? Andyan po ba kayo? Someone? Thank you again, Mr. Kimbo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just unshare this slide. Sandali lang po.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, the Honorable we have Secretary Bunuan, you're recognized. I have to call him Secretary as a former Secretary of the Department of Public Works and Highways.
Thank you very much.
We came back, way back, but a mutual respect, but clearly defining the executive and legislative function of the House.
Thank you very much.
You're recognized.
Thank you po. Thank you po. The San Miguel tollways, these are now in operation. Include actually yung Tarlac Pangasinan La Union Expressway that extends from Tarlac all the way to Rosario. And then we have the skyway system that is made up of the elevated and the upgrade portion that is from Buendia to Alabang. And we operate also the Naiya Expressway. And then going further south, we operate the South Luzon Expressway from Alabang all the way to Santo Tomas, Batangas. And farther south, it's Santo Tomas, Batangas to Batangas City. So these are the tollways in operations right now. But of course, there are other projects that the San Miguel Corporation is now undertaking for now. Mr. Chairman, actually, the electronic toll collection system in our tollways started started with our auto sweep RFID since February 2015. We realize, of course, that when you introduce a system, you have to convince your customer or your motorist actually that the system is a more convenient, more efficient system than the present system of cash. So from there on, Mr. Chairman, from 2015, we continued to upgrade actually our system up to now. We continued to upgrade it until such time that we would really venture to say that we have reached a degree of satisfaction of our motorists along the tollways, our tollways, which I'm saying that today, as of today, we have set up some standards like before you reach the barrier, if you are using an RFID, in 5 meters before the toll barrier should go up automatically. And our reading rate now, Mr. Chairman, for our ETC, electronic toll collection system, is 98%. 98%, that means automatic po yun, ha? Automatic. The 2% actually is actually, well, these are motorists with little differences in the stickering, etc. But they are still allowed to get into the lane, but their cards are being scanned. So, in other words, sa amin po, only 2% of our motorists are actually now being scanned. So, lahat po sila.
And I'll cut you short, Sec. Are we ready for December 1?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In fact, we were ready as early as November 1. And even then, we for December 1 up to December 1, we're actually more ready actually to roll out actually the cashless.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Mr. Chair.
please. The Honorable Pancho is recognized.
Yes, yung sa readiness po is it's on the part of the toll operators. Naintindihan po natin na talagang andyan sila, talagang ready sila kung sinasabi po niya ready to implement. But the problem is us, commuters. Ready na po ba kaya tayo na bigla na lamang magkaroon ng congestion because nagpanic ng stickering? Iyon po kasi ang problema. Minsan sabihin na natin, siguro galing Pilipino, last minute. Pagka may deadline, nagkakagulo. So, yung toll operators po, sabi nga natin, definitely gumagawa ng paraan yan para maging ready sila dahil may department order or inatasan sila ng secretary. So, nandun na po tayo na talagang pinipilit nila maging gayak ang sistema. Ang tanong po is, lahat po kaya ng commuters, lahat po kaya ng toll users ay nakagayak na rin na hindi sila mag-suffer at magsakripisyo na bigla na namang dadagsain yung mga toll booths natin ng mga magpapa-install po ng RFID. Yun po yung iniiwasan natin eh. We're not only questioning also the readiness of the toll operators, but also yung sa part din ng mga commuters, lahat po kaya ay meron na at nagkaroon na lahat ng gagamit. Kasi andun na naman po, papasok na naman like yung previous na deadline nila. Eh talagang hindi na po tumakbo yung mga toll natin dahil napuno po na sasakyan. Yun lang po, Mr. Chair.
Sec. Manny, do you want to respond to the question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Actually, this is one of the things that we have actually discussed today with the Department of Transportation and the Toll Regulatory Board on how to address such situations actually from December 1 until January 11. And we have the DOTR and TRB has made specific guidelines and steps actually that our operators, that we operators have to comply with actually, like yung mga stickering along the toll lanes. It is not necessarily going to mean that actually that when you enter a toll lane and you don't have a sticker, hindi ho mag-i-stop doon. Sa amin pong gagawin namin is actually, we will let you pass, but you will have to be put aside doon sa expressway mismo, sa may carriageway, and there's going to be a group of personnel that will maglagay na po na yung sticker ninyo at mag-load sa inyo doon.
Yun ang napag-usapan natin last time. Tama po ba,
Yes,
Sec?
opo. Yes, sir.
This was the suggestion as well of the Honorable Pancho that you will allow them to go inside at mayroon doon magmaman doon at lalagyan po sila ng sticker. Tama po ba?
Opo. Yes, sir. I think
Anything else, Sec Manny, so that we can open the floor for interpellation?
Well, let me just point out also that, Mr. Chairman, that
yes, please go on.
Let me just point out actually that our programs actually will not end by December 1 or January 11 because this is going to be a continuing program for all operators. These are our customers and we have to serve them as much as we would. Lahat, tuloy-tuloy po ito until our concession period ends. Actually,
maraming salamat pag-emphasize doon at tuloy-tuloy po ito. So na makukuhaan pa natin ng kaba. No? At saka, syempre, tingnan lang natin yung buong programa kung kailan talaga pwede nang gawin. No? So, if ever wala nang iba, Secman, I will now open the floor for interpellation. And to start with, we have, of course, here the Honorable Romeo Momo of Party List CWS. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Dalawa lang yung concern ko, Mr. Chairman. One is the quality of electronic collection system nila na ilagay. Then the other one is the interoperability of these RFIDs. Ano? Pero siguro yung interoperability mamaya i-discuss din yan, di ba, Mr.
Tama po yan. I will appeal to the Honorable Momo kung pwede mamaya na lang po.
Yes,
ito lang muna yung quality. No? But really, this will be discussed further ni Chairman Apol Pancho.
Unahin ko na, Mr. Chairman, yung sa tingin ko yung quality. Ano? When I was still employed with the Department of Public Works and Highways, Mr. Chairman, whenever my boss, especially my former boss, Manny Bonoan, sent me for study in neighboring countries for study on the implementation of their highway system. Lagi akong particular na nakatingin doon sa mga quality ng kanilang mga systems na nilalagay sa kanilang mga national highways. Now, marami sa atin siguro nagta-travel sa Japan, sa Korea, Malaysia, Indonesia, neighboring countries natin dito, no. Siguro nagta-travel, dumadaan din kayo sa mga toll booths nila, toll highways nila, di ba? Nakita niyo sa Japan, pagdadaan yung mga sasakyan, halos hindi na nga nagpipreno yon. Tuloy-tuloy, halos tuloy-tuloy. Ibig ko sabihin, malayo ba, nababasa na nila at bumubukas kaagad yung kanilang mga bars. Yung mga bars, toll bar, yung sa gates nila. Kung tingnan niyo, ang mga gates nila, maiigsi lang, hindi mahaba eh. Maiigsi lang. Yung mga bars nila, biglang tataas ka agad yan. Halos hindi ka na nagpipreno, hindi ka nagre-reduce ng speed. Bakit hindi natin magawa yan dito kaya sa Pilipinas, Mr. Chairman? Yun ang malaking tulong yun sa nawawalang oras na nagbibiyahe. So siguro, I would suggest to the toll operators to further improve the systems na ginagamit nila, Mr. Chairman. Well, with regards to interoperability, mamaya na ako magtatanong, Mr. Chairman.
Any comment in a response from the SLEX or NLEX management on the question raised by the Honorable Momo? Yeah. On the upgrading of your system? Is it part of your roadmap? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, yes, absolutely. I think there is no way, I mean, this is the only one that we have to go through that modernization of our electronic toll collection system similar to the developed countries like what Congressman Momo has mentioned actually. But this will take a little while. Now that we are now on the cashless program, I suppose that this is now going to be the agenda for everybody for the tollways to actually see how we can further improve actually yung system so that we can reach actually the same level as other countries are doing for their toll collection system. Maganda po yun. I think that's a good idea. I mean, that's a good idea actually that we have to go through, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
In addition,
yes,
Mr. Chairman,
please,
you have mentioned
recognize,
Singapore earlier. Kung nasa Singapore tayo, Mr. Chairman, may mga toll system sila doon sa within the city. Pero wala tayong nakitang toll booth. Ganon kamoderno sila. So I think siguro, well, sa laki naman ng volume ng pumapasok, dumadaan sa mga toll roads natin, it's high time already, Mr. Chairman, for these toll operators to improve their systems. Dapat yun ang gagawin.
I think there is clearly a response from former Secretary Manny Bunuan that it's part of the roadmap, and I will seek as well the response coming from the NLEX management. However, from the chair, to address the concern of the Honorable Momo, I'm hoping that the Department of Transportation really will come up with a good roadmap again. Because isa-isahin po natin, ngayon po nagpo-full RFID pa lang tayo. Then moving forward, siguro ito na, papasok na talaga ang full usage talaga ng beauty po ng technology. Please go on, Honorable
Mr. Chairman, I think that is the responsibility of Toll Regulatory Board. So dapat siguro nakatutok ang TRB doon sa improvements ng mga systems ng mga toll operators. Kasi it's like
part of their mandate.
Under TRB.
Tama po yan. Ulitin ko lang po, this was discussed before. Again, nagsimula lang po si expressway ng 88 kilometers. By 2022, roughly 801 kilometers na po. That's why tamang-tama, we have to set a standard on the kind of equipments moving forward. Saan talaga natin ipuposition ang bansa natin for the next decade. No? So, Mr. Kimbo, for your response, please, on the modernization of your system as well in the years to come. Of course, Toll Regulatory Board is listening as well. Yes, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We fully appreciate the comments of Congressman Momo. And our strategy is obviously to continue the upgrading and improvement of the equipment and the system. We have gone through a system, we upgraded recently. We already migrated from a system 2 years ago to a new one this year. And we continue to observe the standards that are being observed and noticed already all over the world. We have seen the system that Congressman Momo has pointed out, the one in Japan, the Tokyo Metropolitan Expressway, and the one in Singapore. We fully agree that that should be the standard that we should be looking for. And our investment strategy is directed towards meeting that standard.
Okay, thank you. Now, it's already 2:50 now, almost 3 o'clock. We are given by the Chairman Apol up to 3:30 because part 2 will come in, of course. So there's still another agenda cut, the resumption of taxi. But again, the Chair would like to address the concern of the Honorable Castello on her House Resolution 1367, appealing for an extension of up to January 1 so that we can address the concern of agenda number 1. Before we do so, the Chair will now recognize the Honorable Paul Dasa of the 1st District of Northern Samar for his interpellation. Honorable Dasa, you're recognized, please.
Chairman, thank you, Chairman. I support, please allow me to state for the record that I support the comments of the previous members, Kong Pancho, Kong Castello, and even the Chairman's comments about the December 1st. I think there has to be a lot of considerations, and let me share, Mr. Chair, because I used to work with DOTR in the MRT system. As you might be aware, one of the thrusts 10 years ago, in fact, it was bidded out, was to make the MRT lines seamless and easy for commuters to use. In fact, there was I don't know if they implemented already, with one card, you can ride LRT1, LRT2, MRT3, and other lines. So my question, Mr. Chair, to the TRB, would it be correct to state that part of the mandate of DOTR and TRB is to make sure that the tollways are not just safe and properly maintained, but will also be consumer friendly? Would that be a fair statement to make?
That's very fair. May we seek, do you want TRB to respond now, Honorable Dasa?
Yes, please. Just a short answer.
TRB Executive Director Sales, please respond to the interpellation raised or manifestation raised by Honorable Dasa, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that's a fair statement. Actually, we're looking at this in the interoperability project, Mr. Chairman. That includes the LTO, the plate recognition, so that we'll have a system that even on the apprehension part, on the enforcement of laws, Mr. Chairman, there will be a system along expressways that could be utilized not only by the operators, but also that would benefit the LTO and even in the enforcement of laws, Mr. Chairman. We continue to study the improvements that would be towards the objective of having that not only on the collection system, Mr. Chairman, but on the enforcement of laws as well. That's why in the memorandum of agreement that we have that included the DPWH, the LTO, it is intended also that in the enforcement of laws, these electronic systems could be utilized also, Mr. Chairman.
So Mr. Chair, so
yes, please go on, Honorable Dasa.
The TRB mentioned electronic systems. Congressman Momo mentioned he traveled. I actually traveled around and looked at systems 20 years ago for the MRT. In fact, from what I recall, the best systems are what we call the smart systems, where it makes it very easy to use for the end user, for the consumer. I think we've discussed many of the technical issues with the operators. I think we need to focus on the consumer side. So my question to the TRB, like in Japan and other parts of the world, a consumer with one card or even their cell phone can use the MRT, can use the bus, can buy at 7-Eleven, can even bring it to their cars, and with that one system can use the different modes of transportation. So my question to the TRB, because it's germane really to the resolution filed by Congresswoman Costello, has the TRB drafted, or are there any anything in writing, a policy, guidelines that will make it easier for consumer to be able to comply with let's say with the different tollways? Even me, I've been a member of the House twice. I still can't remember which tollway is operated by who. So it's as you know, Chairman, there's many problems because we have visitors from the provinces who come here once a year, maybe once every 2 years, and they're complaining. How are they going to get their cars done when they're in the Visayas and they only come here maybe during barangay league convention? So I think we need to focus on DOTR and TRB to come up with the right policy that will capture all these concerns. So my question at TRB is, do they have one? And if they don't, when can they come up with the vision, the mandate, and the guidelines?
Mr. Executive Director Salas, did you get the question right?
Yes,
interpolation, clearly, there are two issues at hand. Can you respond to it, please?
When we go into the discussion on the ultimate objective of the interoperability, Mr. Chairman, we would be, I believe that we would be discussing that because
I'll cut you short, Executive. It includes the consumers' convenience as well, like what is being used in Thailand right now, To be specific, they have a card which can be used as an e-wallet, can be used on anywhere. I think that's the direction that the Honorable Dasa wants, and I'm hoping that should be part of the roadmap of TRB as well. Please go on.
Correct, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
That can be considered in the discussion, Mr. Chairman, because presently we are only looking at the toll facilities, Mr. Chairman. It would involve several agencies already if we consider something like a card that is universal for
And
use. Mr. Chairman.
considering again from the chair to interject on the interpellation raised by the Honorable Dasa, can you submit to the committee a program for the next maybe months or years to include this system already, leveling up the capacity or the system we have comparative to other parts of the region as well, like again, to compare the country and an apple to apple, we have Indonesia to be specific, we have Thailand to be specific again, so that not only that the card that the consuming public has, but this can be used on different perspectives as well. And kindly include as well on your system the introduction now of a national ID system. This is going to be an advantageous to everyone once we have this national ID system that will augment, of course, any system that the country really wants moving forward. Anything else, Honorable Dasa?
Yeah, yes, I do. I just require quick answers, Mr. Chair. And thank you for stating that, because that was actually what I wanted, was something from the TRB to submit to the committee, and may I request the COMSEC to provide this representation a copy when they've received it. Second, Mr. Chair, may I ask the TRB, when the concession agreements were done for all this, toll roads, I suspect, and because I was told, Mr. Chair, 20 years ago, that part of the income of the systems, and that's the reason why it also favors the tollway operators, because there's a float. So if an RFID has 200 pesos load, you multiply that by millions, there's a float. So my question is to TRB, does the TRB consider this income in the projections for the concession agreements? Meaning, do the consumers get the benefit of this float eventually in terms of lesser fees down the road? It's just a yes or no, Mr. Chair.
Kindly respond in the shortest response, please, on the question. Executive Director Sales.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we will be looking to that when we will be reviewing their financial statements in relation to the adjustments of toll, Mr. Chairman. But as of now, considering that we are into this program of full cashless, we had discussed that with the technical working group of the TRB, and the agreement among the members of the TW is to look into the effect of the float, Mr. Chairman, in relation to toll adjustments, Mr. Chairman.
May I ask, is Bangko Central part of the technical working group?
It's the Department of Finance, NEDA, the DOTR, the DPWS.
That's very good. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Please go on.
Mr. Chair, last one, and I thank the TRB by stating on the record that part of your mandate is also consumer protection in terms of supervising the toll roads. So may I ask, in the earlier system, Mr. Chair, if you recall, the e-pass, with one e-pass, which was tied into, let's say, I had an e-pass, it was charged to my credit card, I have 3 cars, I can use that e-pass for any of the cars, because normally people with 2 cars, let's say, will not use all those cars at the same time. So my question is, to make it easier and to make it more consumer friendly, why not allow the card that comes with the RFID be used for other cars? Why do you have to have a separate card for each car, other than maybe getting a float, for the operators? It would make it easier for all of us. If my neighbor here who doesn't have an RFID, I want to lend him my card and I'm paying for it, and I authorize that. Why can't, my neighbor use the card? Or even in my example, why can't I use one card for my other car that doesn't have an RFID? So may I ask the TRB why that's not allowed? if you want to be consumer friendly.
Can respond, Executive Director, please?
That is already an operational matter, Mr. Chairman. Maybe the operators could better explain.
May I appeal to the Honorable Dasa if we can include this in the agenda of the technical working group of the Honorable Pancho's chairman, because this is really worth looking at, the card, because we have right now, it is now evolving from, of course, from cash to RFID. Then we have the equipments to consider, so that we can help as well TRB on a collective effort between the legislative branch of government and the executive branch of government.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
On the direction, yeah.
We will take your lead, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. I'm hoping for your kind understanding, Honorable Dasa.
Of course.
So
Thank you. Thank you.
So I think we have discussed thoroughly the issues at hand, specifically House Resolution 1367, authored, of course, by the Honorable Precious Apol Costello. And before we act on this, I would like to cite the following specific data that they want to consider, and it has to be considered by the members of this honorable committee, the Committee on Transportation. First, on resolution Department Order 2020 number 12, released August of 2020. The usage of RFID was only 35%. After 3 months, went up to 70%. Meaning to say, if you want to help them, maybe another 3 months can be. I'm hoping this will be acceptable to the Department of Transportation, and of course the concessionaire as well, looking at the number. Second, of course, we have the issue of the equipment. Can you hold on? Are we on? Okay, we are on. On the equipment, it has to be rated as well. This was the question was raised by the Honorable Mickey Violago, and I believe so. The chair is towards not only TRB, but clearly it's part of their mandate. But I'm hoping that the Department of Trade and Industry and DICT will be part of their technical working group to assess the different equipments. And of course, part of TRB's mandate as well is to level up the different equipments. Maybe this can be fully utilized during the interoperability stage, as the bills filed by the Honorable Wes Gatchalian and the Honorable Olivarez. And finally, we can put it on stages so that we can act on this appropriately. And I'm hoping that any members who wants to make a motion on this, so that we can dispense of this. Right? Yes, please.
I move to adopt the House Resolution number 1367.
Honorable yes.
Subject to the amendments, if there are any, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion for us to adopt the House Resolution 1367 of the Honorable Costello. And a second?
Second.
Duly seconded. Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved adopting the House Resolution of the Honorable Costello unless otherwise amended.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all.
Anything else from the members of the House before we move on to Agenda B on the taxi pilot study? Any motion? Further motion? None?
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Okay, the Honorable Revilla, Strike Revilla.
Yes, magandang hapon, Mr.
Magandang
Chair.
hapon po. Thank you for joining us.
Yes. Meron lang po akong gustong linawin. Kasi kanina, sabi natin ito is cashless payment system. I'm for the implementation. Okay naman po sa atin yan, di ba? Actually, ang nire-request lang naman ni Congresswoman Costello is to extend, ever. Pero sa akin, ang napapansin ko lang, tingin ko yung system, nag-usapan po natin yung system. The problem here talaga, nakikita natin kung ready sila, ay yung what you call this, yung load. Yung load. Kasi yung load, hindi po natin lahat ng driver, alam nila yung load ng sasakyan nila. Minsan nagpapalit-palit yung driver ngayon. So the problem is, kaya tatagal din sa mga booth. My question is, pwede ba natin na gawin sa sistema na since lahat naman na halos, lahat na ng tao, kahit bata, alam natin na gumagamit na po ito ng cellphone. Hindi pa pwede na makita natin yung nagagamit natin via cellphone na i-inform tayo, Mr. Chairman?
This is a very good question from the Honorable Revilla. Will any TRB or we start with TRB first, and maybe management of SLEX and NLEX on the question raised. Executive Director, hindi po ba pwedeng gamitin ang cellphone maybe moving forward para masama na po yung sa sistema natin para nalalaman po.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that is again an operational matter on the part of the ongoing program, Mr. Chairman, and then maybe the operators could better answer the question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Kimbo, please, on the question raised, pwede po ba moving forward? Ma-inform yung publiko sa balanse?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Congressman Revilla, the direction is really to inform the motorist as early as possible when his load falls below a certain level. As I said, this is a new thing for our customers. But on the other hand, everybody knows how to load through a cell phone. Yung prepaid pag-load ho natin. Papunta naman ho yung direction natin dyan. For now, ang ating reloading stations, we have about 3,500 reloading sites and platforms. No? Ito pong reloading via phone is also the direction we are going into, Mr. Chairman.
Will this satisfy the Honorable Revilla or
Yes.
response from SLEX? Pwede na yan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think kasi nag-file po tayo na yung prepaid. Yan yung prepaid din sa cellphone. No? Nag-file tayo ng protection kasi diba, yun nag-expire. Dito, I know, Mr. Chairman, just want to reiterate na hindi nag-expire ang load dito, di ba, Mr. Chair?
Executive Director or Mr. Kimbo, operational matter, hindi po ba nag-expire ang load? Tamang tanong po yan.
Tama po, hindi po nag-expire ang load.
About Secretary Bunuan, please, on the SLEX side.
Well, actually, Mr. Chairman, hindi talaga nag-expire yung load. And let me just say, actually, dito po sa SMC tollways, the motorist can actually check their balance through SMS or online balance inquiry. No? Meron lang po modality ito kasi meron yung data privacy kung natin dito. Not everybody. Kailangan po kung sino yung may account. Yun lang po ang dapat makapag-access. Kung ano yung balance niya, etc. And we have some instructions to that effect, Mr. Chairman, that you can actually check your balance through SMS or online balance inquiry.
The Chair, sana nakikinig yung sa media pa natin. Ito maliwanag po ang sinasabi ng management ng SLEX. May sistema po sila para ma-check. Kanya lang, because of the Data Privacy Act, kailangan po ang mismo may-ari ang pupasok po dun sa account na yun o sa online platform na yun para malaman po. But hindi po mag-expire, maliwanag po. Ulitin lang po natin, due respect kay Honorable Revilla, ito pong motion na ginawa po natin, hindi po sinasabi na hindi po magpapatuloy ang concessionaire. Kung ano po napag-usapan kaninang umaga ng Department of Transportation, ng Toll Regulatory Board at saka ng mga concessionaires po, tuloy po yun. Ang atin lang, inadapt po natin na himingi na tayo na hanggang January 1 at magtitingnan po ito as the time progress at pag-uusapan po ito further ng chairman po ng Technical Working Group dito po sa interoperability. Doon na po pag-uusapan po ito, pati na po yung operational guideline po ng mga concessionaires through the Toll Regulatory Board. Wala na po bang iba dito sa House Resolution 1367? Any other
Mr.
concern?
Chair.
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Olivarez.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion, Mr. Chair. I would like to move for the inclusion of the RFID installation upon registration or renewal of the registration with the LTO, Mr. Chair.
There's a motion for us that future renewal of vehicles with the Land Transportation Office automatically an RFID will be installed. Tama po ba? Am I right, Honorable Olivarez?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Any second to the motion?
Second.
Julie seconded
Sir
the
Chair.
motion. Yes, Honorable.
Yes, can we include also into that resolution the newly purchased vehicle to be installed an RFID once released in the car dealers?
Do you want to amend your motion, Honorable Olivarez, please, to include brand new vehicles?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm amenable, Mr. Chair.
So that will include brand new vehicles, brand new acquisition, automatically an RFID will be installed. Any objection to the motion or to the amendment? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Mr.
I
Chair.
think anything else on House Resolution
Mr. Chair.
1367? Yes, the Honorable Sultan, please.
Mr. Chair, I have a few questions. Ito bang prepaid card, Mr. Chair? Who issued the prepaid card? Is this regulated by Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas? Because commuters will be now depositing for this card. Yung tanong ko lang, sino ba nag-issue ng prepaid card used dito sa cashless ko natin dito sa mga toll booth, Mr. Chair?
Yeah. Okay, ulitin lang po natin na sino po nag-issue. I think for the question raised by the Honorable Sultan, may I request Mr. Kimbo, please, to respond to it.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Ang nag-issue po ng card, kung saan po yung mga motorista ay pumipirma po at gumagawa po ng account, na RFID account, ay isa pong kumpanyang EasyTrip Corporation. Ito po ay distributor at saka gagawa po ng ang account management po namin. Of course, ito pong paglalagay po ng load ay naipagpaalam na po ito sa Bangko Sentral. Meron pong documentation between EasyTrip Corporation na kumukuha po ng mga load na ito sa mga motorista at kung ano po ang classification ng load na yan. Meron pong relationship na po meron pong documentation between EasyTrip at saka yung Bangko Sentral po.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please go.
Can I speak in behalf of Bangko Sentral? This is Raymond Estioco.
Yeah, I was about to recognize Raymond, but before the chair will recognize you, maybe the response of NLEX management is the same as the response that will be stated by the SLEX management. Pares lang po ba so that the chair will recognize Central Bank?
More or less the same.
Thank you. Central Bank, please. Maraming pagsali po ninyo sa meeting natin. Paki-elaborate lang po.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair. Please allow me to cite Republic Act 11127 for the National Payment Systems Act. Under this law, it defines payment system as the set of payment instruments, processes, procedures, and participants that ensures the circulation of money or movement of funds. The National Electronic Toll Collection System falls under the definition of payment system as it involves the use of cash stored in an RFID account of a vehicle owner for the payment of toll fees in all toll roads in the country. Now, when the bill becomes a law, where an interoperability amongst the toll collection system is mandated, an entity would have to step up and ensure that upon use of the RFID tags in any of the toll roads or expressways, the amounts due to each toll operator are properly determined and paid for, and the balances of each RFID account holder as he travels in the various expressways are accounted for. Therefore, the operator of this toll collection system would fall under the BSP oversight in collaboration with other government agencies as the DOTR and TRB to avoid gaps, inefficiencies, duplications, and inconsistencies in respect to the regulation of other systems which are related to or interconnected in the NETCS. Now, among the issues raised earlier, like the transparency of the load in the RFID card and the safety of the load on the outstanding value in the RFID card may be covered once the BSP oversees the as a payment system, this toll collection system in collaboration with the other government agencies. Mr. Chair, that's all. Sorry, Mr. Chair, I believe you're in mute.
Honorable Lusutan, clearly the explanation stated by Central Bank explains the question you were asking at maliwanag po na isang batas po ito, no? At sinasabi po ay may oversight function po ang Central Bank, makikita mo nila ito. Alam po natin ang worry through the media, sinasabi ko sana mapakisabi lang po sa mamamayan, ito yung minomonitoring po ng Central Bank na hindi po nagbabayad po tayo at lulukuhin lang po, hindi po, matindi po. Isang batas po ang protection po natin. So, anything else on the...
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, RA House Resolution 1367. If not, we dispense of Agenda 1 so that we can now go to Agenda 2, the update of the motorcycle taxi pilot study. And the Chair will now recognize the Chairperson for the Technical Working Group, Asek Galvante from the Land Transportation Office. Good afternoon, Asek. Kumusta na po tayo rito sa motorcycle taxi? I think, kindly state, nag-resume na po ba tayo? Kailan, kung kailan?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, members of the committee. As the IATF, NTF has issued the guidelines on the resumption, we reactivated the technical working group created by the Secretary and already studied the guidelines released and how to implement this. Then last November 19, we called on the three players, namely Angka, Move It, and Joyride, to advise them to prepare accordingly so that they can immediately resume. The instruction of our Secretary is that effective 23, they may already resume the pilot run provided they have complied with the guidelines set forth, aside from the previous guidelines that have been issued. So, yes.
So, ulitin natin from the House Resolution of October 16, IATF or National Task Force came up with the guideline at pinahintulutan nyo pa ang motorcycle taxi. Tama po ba, Asek?
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, as of today, effective yesterday, AGCAS, which was inspected last Friday and Saturday, I think until Saturday, they complied with the requirements under the guidelines, and except for some minor details that we need, they were issued a provisional authority that would authorize them to start resuming the pilot run. And yesterday, they indeed started the pilot run. And the provisional authority that was granted is until December 8th, because we expect that on the report of the inspection team, meron pong konting kailangan silang i-comply. Kaya re-reviewin po natin to and before December 8, kung na-comply na po nila ito, i-issue namin sila ng certificate of compliance for them to resume until the whole duration of the exercise of the speaker, Mr. Chairman. And also, itong Joyride, nakapag-practice na rin po at they were inspected and they were also given the same nature of authority that they also have to comply until December 8. Ang inaantay na lang po namin at mabigyan namin ng authority is itong Move It, although yesterday we have received their communication requesting us to inspect them on Friday, so that if they pass the inspection, they will again also be issued this notice that they can proceed with the pilot run. So,
I believe
yun
so,
ang-
ASEC, we have a guideline for the criteria for the kind consideration of the technical working group. Tama po ba? May sinusundan po kayong guideline? Am I right?
Yung
Please go on.
Yung in-issue po ng IETF, in-emphasize natin to na hindi sila dapat kumbaga magkaroon ng pagliban sa mga in-enumerate na kailangan lang gawin. For example, whether there is a question about the installation of a barrier or not, ang decision po ng IATF is all those that will be participating should have the barrier. Kaya po yun ay isa sa mga inspect at saka yung cashless transaction para maiwasan po yung pagpapalit-palitan ng pera kung saan maaaring ito maging makakontribute sa pag-transmit ng virus, isa pong mahigpit na requirement ito. Aside from the other safety precautions that they should be observing, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else, ASEC? Because there are three, I think there are three members of the House who wants to interpolate: the Honorable Olivarez, Honorable Lim, and Honorable Costello, so that I can give the chair will give them the opportunity to interpolate the chairman of the technical working group. But before you do so, with the kind understanding of everyone, the chair would like to acknowledge first joining us, of course, the vice chairman, the Honorable John Chanco from the Lone District of Navotas City, and the Honorable Coco Nograles from the PBA party list. The brother, maraming salamat for joining us. The chair will now recognize Honorable Olivarez.
Mr. Chair, may I be acknowledged as well?
Honorable Wes Gatchalian, thank you for joining us. The chairman of the Trade and Industry, thank you for joining us.
Mr. Chair, Congressman Nograles, can I be listed for a quick manifestation, perhaps? If ever,
Okay,
Mr.
we'll do so. Thank you, Congressman Nograles. Honorable Olivarez, you're now recognized. Andiyan ba? Honorable Eric Olivarez?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, you're recognized, Your Honor.
This is in relation to my House bill, an act mandating all tollway operators to use unified electronic toll collection access pass.
We are not yet on that stage, Your Honor. We are still on the motorcycle taxi because I want to address first the second agenda before we will terminate the Mother Committee meeting to give way to the technical working group.
Okay, sorry about that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. About the Honorable Lim on the motorcycle taxi, please. Or Honorable Costello.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon po. So I was listening to ASEC Galvante earlier on. So I'd just like to know, we are in support of this, the continuation of the pilot study for MC Taxi. We are concerned actually on behalf of my constituents, is that why was the MC Taxi pilot study, continuation of which, is given only until December 9? Ano po ba yung for compliance na requirement? Because I believe after almost 9 months of being on lockdown, tumaan na po tayo sa MECQ, MCQ, lahat na ng Q, ay siguro naman po kung nag-fully comply na po sila sa requirements set forth by IATF, so how come we are only giving them the deadline of December 9, Mr. Chairman? Through you po. Thank you.
ASEC Galvante, on the question raised by the Honorable secondly, but after which, after the Honorable Costello, the chair will recognize, I think, we have here, of course, Secretary Vince Dizon from IATF or the National Task Force. I think for us to have, to get his side as well on the taxi, I think the chair will recognize him as well. Galvante first. ASEC, please.
Yes.
The question raised by the Honorable Costello.
I may clarify is, yung pong binigay na authority sa ANCAS is provisional. Dahil po doon sa meron silang pino-point out namin na kailangan satisfy nila. For example, yung sa insurance, no? Yung coverage ng kanilang sakay at sa kanilang riders. Meron pong nakita yung inspection team na kailangan i-update yun. Kaya binibigyan po sila na hanggang December 8 para magawa yon. Importante po yun. In fact, hindi naman natin sinasabing may mangyayari, no? Pero kung sakaling may mangyari, meron po tayong kahit pa paano ma-alleviate natin yung sitwasyon. Pagkatapos po yung need to validate yung mga health declaration na sinasabi nila ron na dinideclare ng pasahero kung ano yung temperature niya. Tinatanong namin ano namang proseso natin kung paano natin mababalidate na yung claim ng pasahero ay tama. So there should be a way of checking. So binibigyan natin po sila ng hanggang 8 na ma-explain nila yung procedure na katanggap-tanggap. Kasi nasa po yan nasa requirement ng issue ng IATF yon. Kaya hindi po sila pinagbabawalan naman na magpatuloy kung compliant na po sila sa mga ilinatag na pamantayan.
Thank you. Honorable Costello, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I ask through you, kung nag-comply po ba itong 3 key players po natin na MC Taxi, if they have already submitted or complied with, like let's say the ones that mentioned earlier by ASEC Delvante, like in thermoscanner, the barriers, and the insurance. Those are the 3 things that I remember that he mentioned, if I'm correct, Mr. Chairman.
Please respond, ASEC Delvante.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Kompleto.
Yun nga po, nung nag-issue tayo ng provisional, yun po ang sinabi nating konting pagkukulang nila na kailangan lang makumpleto. But even then, pinayagan na po sila mag-operate. At nagkataon naman po, ang particular ditong angkas, nagpadala na kagad ng kanilang compliance at pinapakita nila. In fact, just a while ago, natanggap ko po yung kanilang compliance at sinasabi lang na-update na po nila yung insurance coverage. Kaya yung requirement kong yun, wala na sa kailangan lang paliwanag pa. Yun na lang inaantay namin is kung paano lang ma-ascertain. May health declaration, kung ano sinabing temperature doon, anong way of validating it. Yun lang po.
ASEC, from the chair, tanong ko lang, ang IATF, before you will approve of any of the 3 motorcycle taxi companies, do they seek clearance first from IATF or National Task Force or kayo na po? Kasi considering this is pandemic, we go through first IATF. No? That's why I want to hear first from Secretary Dizon on his input as well on IATF side. No? On your consideration, the process wherein the motorcycle, of course, was considered. Did they have to submit anything in compliance to the requirement of IATF, considering pandemic before the technical working group, of course, headed by ASEC Galvante, act on the 3 different concessionaires? Do you have Secretary Dizon?
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon. Good afternoon to all the honorable members.
Thank you for joining us. Magandang hapon.
Good afternoon po kay ASEC Galvante and sa team ng DOTR. For the information po of the chairman and the entire committee, last November 4, the National Task Force, led by its chairman and vice chairman, Secretary Delphine Lorenzana and Secretary Ed Año, as recommended by the Chief Implementer, Secretary Galvez, and myself as Deputy Chief Implementer, passed the guidelines for motorcycle taxis, and it was signed and released on November 4. Under the guidelines po, very, very detailed po to, in the basic guidelines under Section 6, which outlines all the guidelines for motorcycle taxi drivers, for motorcycle taxi passengers, motorcycle taxi app providers, and even tricycle drivers. No, nakalista po ito, 3 pages po of guidelines ito. Ito po ay
pinadala sa lahat ng member agencies ng IATF. Siyempre po kasama ang implementing agencies led by the Department of Transportation, the Land Transportation Office, and the LTFRB. And we are very happy po sa report ni Asek Galvante na nag-meeting na po ang TWG and nagsimula na po ata based sa report sa amin ngayong araw ang resumption ng motorcycle taxi. Alam niyo po, Mr. Chairman, no, napaka-importante po ng mga motorcycle taxis natin, lalong-lalo na sa pag-reopen natin ng ekonomiya, and ma-assure po ng NTF at ng IATF ang lahat ng ating mga representatives na NTF po and IATF are really pushing for more supply of public transport, lalo na para sa ating mga workers and sa ating mga commuters. Pero at the same time, we have to really follow the guidelines as promulgated under the guidelines of the NTF for motorcycle taxis. And we are confident po that the TWG of Asek Galvante will fully comply, and also the providers will also comply. Ang ano lang po namin dito, ang gusto lang po namin iparating sa ating mga partner agencies na sana po bilisan natin ang pag-approve at pag-check sa ating mga providers para po makapag-umpisa na, no? Dahil kailangan na rin po talaga ng ating mga kababayan na mag-umpisa na ang mga modes of transport para sa kanila, para lalo na po ngayon, no, magpapasko, and kailangan po ng ating mga kababayan para sa kanilang livelihood and also para sa commute ng ating mga consumers. Yun po, we will furnish po the committee, Mr. Chairman, and your office.
Please do so, because we want, because
the NTF guidelines dated November 4, Mr. Chairman.
Kindly, thank you, Secretary, and we seek for that copy of the guidelines, because clearly that should be part of the work of the technical working group once we amend RA 4136, the Land Transportation Act, for the consideration of the two-wheel vehicle as a public conveyance. Kailangan po yun. Kaya hihingi rin po na yan. Timeline talaga rito galing kay Asek Galvante. So anything else before the manifestation? Yes?
Mr. Chairman, with your permission po,
please, you're recognized.
If I could get the email po of the Secretariat sa chat room, I can email the guidelines now po. And I just want to emphasize po, Mr. Chairman, since NTF po ang nag-promulgate ng guidelines, any changes or additional po is i-discuss po ng TWG sa NTF para po kung kinakailangan, ma-revisit po yung guidelines. No? So, mabilis naman po yun, no? At mabilis naman po kami umaksyon sa NTF.
Ibig sabihin, Secretary Vince, na any amendment to the guideline of the National Task Force should be subjected first to the approval of the task force prior to any amendment. Maliwanag po yan. I think Asek Galvante is listening as well, considering pandemic. Siguro naman sinusunod nila Asek Galvante ang lahat po ng guideline. That all the three major players, they have to go through the different processes, no? Bago po nila payagan ng technical working group, sinunod muna tong lahat na guidelines po na Senate na National Task Force. Tama po ba?
And nakakaasa po ang committee, Mr. Chairman, na mabilis pong action ng task force ito.
Okay, thank you so much. Anything else before the manifestation of the Honorable Nograles? Honorable Castello?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question po, I will direct my query po through you, Mr. Chairman, to Secretary Dizon. May I ask if they have included in their guidelines in their health declaration form the temperature check?
Please respond, Secretary Dizon. The temperature check.
If I can, if I can read lang po from section 6.1.6 of the guidelines, nakalagay po dito for motorcycle drivers, submit a body temperature and motorcycle sanitation status report prior to starting a workday to the motorcycle transportation network company or ride-hailing service through their required formats. And section 6.1.7, fill out the health declaration forms via the DOTR accredited motorcycle taxi apps prior to taking rides. Yun po, sa motorcycle taxi passenger naman po, meron pong nakalagay dito 6.2.6, fill out the health declaration forms via the DOTR accredited motorcycle taxi apps prior to booking rides. Yun lang po ang nakalagay for motorcycle taxis, both riders and passengers po.
So, as a Galvante, did we consider this as well? Binasa naman siguro natin para maliwanag lang sa lahat, no, na worry na ang health nila, ito'y maliwanag, no, na Senate po ng IATF at ngayon ini-implement po ng Technical Working Group ng Land Transportation Office, the Department of Transportation. Tama po ba, Asa Galvante?
That's true, Your Honor. Kaya yung po nakalagay doon sa health declaration, may space po ron para i-reflect yung kung ano yung body temperature niya. Kaya yun lang ang katanungan namin sa players kung paano nila bine-verify yung dinedeclare na body temperature. Kung matandaan niyo po, nung kami pinatawag sa Senado, sa Kongreso, may form na pinipilapan at right there, kinukuha nung gwardiya o kung sino man staff yung body temperature. Yung tinatanong lang po namin sa motorcycle taxis participants kung paano nila ina-ascertain na yung dineclare doon is the correct body temperature. Yun lang po ang hinihingi namin explanation. Kaya wala po sila dapat pangamba na hindi a-aprobahin yung kalang, yung kalang pag-resume. Ang hinihingi lang namin kung paano namin ma-explain na pag tinanong kami paano rin-reflect ito, mayroon po kaming accurate na maisasagot. Hindi po kami nagdadagdag na requirement. Nandun po yung sa health declaration kung saan nakalagay doon ano yung body temperature.
Okay, very good. Now we have from Honorable Costello, any more questions? Because we also have the Honorable Bagat Singh and Honorable Lusutan, but of course the Honorable Nograles will come in next after the Honorable Costello for his manifestation. Please go
Mr.
on.
Chairman, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, just to respond po directly, I think the question po earlier of Congresswoman Costello, the Honorable Congresswoman from Quezon City, is the yung temperature check based po on the guidelines, ma'am, Mr. Chairman, yung pong specific sa temperature check ay nasa 6.1.6. Ito po ay para sa driver, para sa passenger po 6.2.6. Yung filling out of declaration form lang po. Wala pong specific on temperature check para sa passenger. Dito po sa
so maliwanag po. Kailangan yung form po. So you just have to be consistent and aligned with the guidelines of the National Task Force. No? Mag-fill up lang po sila ng form. Tama po ba, Secretary Dizon? 6.2.6.
Mr. Chairman, sorry po. Ito po yung ngayong nakalagay sa guidelines, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, just like to know categorically po from you, Secretary Dizon, we have to get the temperature or temperature check of the passenger and of the driver. Tama po ba?
Ma'am, to be very strict about it, I will read the again, Sa guidelines po for the driver, very clear po yung checking of the body temperature. Sa passenger po, declaration form po ang rini-require. Pero like I said po, kung meron pong gustong i-amend ang ating TWG, wala naman pong problema yon. We just have to make sure that the guidelines are amended as such para po very clear po tayo. Pero right now po sa passenger, wala pong specific section on temperature right now.
So on the issue of temperature, any amendment on the guidelines, specifically 6.1.6 and 6.2.6, ang sa driver po maliwanag, ang sa pasahero naman po magpipill up lang po sila ng health declaration form nila. I think that's very specific and very well responded to by the Secretary for the information of everyone. So any deviation, ang pag-iusap po na National Task Force on the temperature check of the passenger, it has to be subjected first to the approval of the NTF before any implementation at the ground. I think that is very clear, stated by the Secretary Dizon. Tama po ba, Sec? And of course,
Mr. Chairman, tama po.
Asa Galvante, are we clear on that as well? Tama po ba?
Yes, Your Honor. In-explain ko nga po, nandun yun sa form. Kaya yun lang po, tinatanong namin, if I may further clarify, tinatanong lang namin kung paano na-ascertain na accurate yung reflect doon. Yun lang po, ang katanungan namin. Explain lang nila yung procedure kung paano nila ginagawa.
So the chair would to have consistency on the guideline of National Task Force and the Technical Working Group, the chair, and we're hoping that we have, I think, representation from ANCAS, the 3 different companies to comply, and on the process on how you make sure that the temperature is checked, sasabit po natin yun. Yun lang atang hinihingi rin, no? Now, we have, of course, the manifestation from the Honorable Nograles. You recognize, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairman Sarmiento, my good friend. This will be a short manifestation. As you know, that I have been following the issues of motorcycle taxis, the lack of laws, rules, and regulations that are cohesive and comprehensive when it comes to this. But I am happy that Secretary Dizon is around, being an expert in, I believe, the NTF Memorandum Circular number 03, series of 2020, which he has been quoting during this meeting. I'd like to direct the attention on the same Memorandum Circular on item 6.9, that only the NTF can amend so as far as the COVID response is concerned. I am making this manifestation that I am alarmed that I think the LTO under ASEC Galvante has required motorcycle taxis to purchase thermal guns in order to operate as part of the guidelines. And I think this is a violation of equal protection, because thermal guns are not required for taxis. It is not required even in jeepneys. It is not required even sa tindahan. And I think that kind of requirement is uncalled for, and it's anti-poor. Not a lot of rich people drive motorcycle taxis for a living, and I think requiring them to purchase these guns would be anti-poor, especially in the time of COVID. Aside from that, I also want to make a manifestation, and I'm happy that Secretary Dizon is here. Perhaps we can amend Memorandum Circular 03, series of 2020, to delete the provision on persons with disabilities. Just say, perhaps, that it's only for persons who are unable to hold on safely, not singling out persons with disabilities. And that's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the time.
Clearly, the manifestation of the Honorable Nograles has to be responded to by ASEC Galvante for the equal protection. Do you really mandate thermal gun usage, ASEC Galvante, please, on the question raised by... Para maliwanag lang po. Kasi baka maraming nakikinig, sasabihin, ano naman to, pinayagan, bibili pa kami ng thermal gun. That's why I'm allowing ASEC Galvante to respond clearly para sa nakikinig po, no, bago tayo mag-adjourn, after, of course, the interpellation of the Honorable Bagat Singh, Honorable Sultan, Honorable Onyx Cristologo, because we have to give way on the part 2 of the technical working group. You already ate up almost 20 minutes of your time. ASEC Galvante, you recognize, please, again.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. We never nag-require po kami na magkaroon sila ng thermal scanner. Ang sinasabi lang po namin, as an example, pagkuha ng temperature, thermal scanner, thermometer, or whatever. hindi po kami nag-require. If I may emphasize, wala po kaming require na ganun. Ang sinasabi lang po naman ng example ng pagkuha ng temperature. At again, hindi po ito rini-require. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much, Asek. Maliwanag na maliwanag po yung issue tungkol sa thermal gun. Wala po. I am hoping that will cool down as well the concern of the Honorable Nograles. Clearly, he's always with the poor. He wants to help at this time of pandemic. We don't want him to invest much more unnecessary expenses. And this was responded to as well by Asek Galvante na hindi po nare-require. On the amendment that the Honorable Nograles is appealing, wag lang po ang specific na disabled no, na ginagamit po natin. Maybe dito naman si Secretary Dizon so that maybe on your guideline, you can use a different terminology that will be acceptable to all walks of life. Secretary Dizon, please, on the second question.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much po. We would like to thank the Honorable Congressman Nograles for his input. Mr. Chairman, napakaganda po ng sinabi ni Congressman Nograles. I will discuss it po right away para po ma-consider at ma-amend po natin based on the suggestion po of Congressman Nograles. I will discuss it po with Secretaries Lorenzana, Secretary Anyo, and Secretary Galvez. And if Congressman Nograles po won't mind, maybe we can reach out to him directly and get the proper language po para ma-amend po ng maayos yung ating memorandum circular po. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else, Honorable Nograles? Thank you so much, Secretary Dizon.
Thank you,
Because,
Secretary. Chairman Sarmiento.
Thank you, sir. Salamat po. Thank you so much.
Now, the Chair will now recognize the Honorable Crystal Bagat Singh from the 5th District of Manila. You recognize, Your Honor.
Hi, yes, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. And everybody here, magandang hapon sa inyo.
Magandang hapon
na naman tayo sa ating motorcycle na parang hindi natin natapos-tapos. Pero mukhang promising na ngayon. So thank you so much to Asek Galvante and to Sec Vince for everything that they're doing and the DOTR family. My question now is, sa barriers, no? Are all operators using these barriers, and are they all NTF approved for all, like let's say, Move It, Joyride, and Angkas?
Asek Galvante, the question raised on the barrier, which is a requirement, do you set the standard? Sino po nag-approve? That should be a requirement to all the 3 companies. Kindly respond, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor. Yung po sa dimension, yung model ng barrier, ito po as per approval of IATF. Kaya kung mabanggit ko po ang nag-submit ng model, I think ang CAS is one and I think Joyride is another. At sa issuance po ng initial na nakita kong issuance, yung sa inadapt po yung model ng angka. Kaya hanggang kahapon po, kahapon kami nakakuha ng update na pati yung model ng Joyride, napayagan na po. Kaya yung po ang pamantayan as para the barriers are concerned. Hindi po nag-require ng kung anong dimension, but rather, kung ano po ang in-approve ng IATF, yun lang po ang i-comply nila. Kaya during the inspection, tinignan po ito, at since complied naman ng CAS, at complied na rin ng IATF, sa IATF guidelines, pinayagan na po sila. At ganun din po yung Joyride. So inaantay lang po natin na yung nag-request ng inspection ng Move It sa Friday, isa po ito sa titignan din na kung compliant sa sila doon. Maraming po salamat.
Thank you, Asek. Honorable Bagat Singh.
Mr. Chairman?
Sec Vince,
Yes, Honorable Dizon, yes. The Chair will recognize the Secretary Dizon with the kind understanding of, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I can confirm po yung sinabi po ni Asek Galvante. And rest assured po na yung pending na lang po sa Move It, pagtatrabahuan po namin ng TWG ng LTO para po ma-assess na rin po ito at sana po ma-approve na rin.
So
pero yung pong mention ay na-approve na.
So approve na po yung dalawang companies, dinaan po sa inyo, move it na lang po.
Opo.
So anything,
I just hope that you know, if this is a very very big concern, no, that it helps in the safety, then I hope that lahat ng mga operators mag-comply.
Mr. Chairman, Congresswoman Bagatsing, most definitely po. Sabi nga po ni Secretary Ed Anyo, siya po mismo, kung maaalala po natin, siya po mismo ang nag-inspect ng ibang mga shields, no, shield barriers, dahil po naniniwala ang NTF na importante po ito to promote safety, and we will ensure po together with the DOTR and LTO na everybody must comply with this very important requirement po under the memorandum circular and the guidelines.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
That's all naman my question. Thank you so much, Sec Vince and
clearly the issue raised by the Honorable Bagatsing was clearly responded to by Secretary Vince Dizon. Now we go to Representative Lusutan. You're recognized. Then finally, Onyx Cristologo, so that we can now dispense of, we can now move to part 2, of course, of the committee hearing.
Mr. Chair, I want to make clarification on those guidelines mentioned by Sec Binson about this passenger health declaration form. My clarification, every time that the passenger is riding this motor taxi, submit or comply with this health declaration form. So, yung pagpunta niya sa opisina, mag-comply ang passenger ng health declaration form. At saka yung pag-uwi naman, after office hour, pagpunta ng kuwan. So, what is the procedure, Mr. Chair, on the accomplishment of the health declaration form by passengers of motor taxi? Mr.
Secretary Vince, kindly respond. On the health declaration form, kailangan po ba every time nasasakay, yan ang concern ni Honorable Lusutan, the process the passenger will do?
Mr. Chairman, on that
motorcycle.
Sorry po, Mr. Chairman. On that detail po, we actually gave the flexibility po to the EWG on the frequency of filling up the form, Mr. Chairman. So maybe I can ask po Asek Galvante kung ano po yung naging final na decision, kasi napag-usapan po yan, but NTF wanted to give the flexibility to the implementing and enforcing agency.
Asek Galvante, please. On the form, the frequency of the forms.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor. Sa ngayon po, sinusunod natin, every time na mag-engage na mag-ride yung passenger, yun po ang disseminate nating guidelines sa motorcycle taxi players. No? Ayun po, kung binibigyan tayo ng leeway to, kung paano yung frequency ng pag-declare, gagawa po tayo ng paraan para at least yung purpose po nung pagkuha ng health declaration niya, yung purpose po nun is ma-serve po natin.
Honorable Lusutan, does it satisfy already your question?
Okay, Mr. Yung second question to Mr. Chair. So we allowed today the operation of motorcycle taxi, and then we set a limit on December 8 to comply those deficiency. So pinahintay natin ng mga 8 months. So ngayon binigyan lang natin mga around 14 days. So why we set December 8 to comply those deficiencies? Yun lang ang gusto kong explanation, Mr. Chair, na sa kahaba ng panahon, mga around 8 months, wala tayong operation, pinayagan natin. So, may taning na 2 linggo lang. So, bakit ganito? Na we know na we need this motorcycle taxi.
Asa Galvante, please. Maliwanag po. Ito ang explanation po kanina, but of course, Asa Galvante will respond to this. No? Dahil nga sa urgency, pinahintulutan na muna nila while awaiting po sa compliance po ng inihingi nilang mga requirements pa. But Asa Galvante, kindly elaborate please on the question raised by the Honorable Usutan.
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman. Yung nasabi ko nga po, mission na yung binigay na hanggang 8, binibigyan po sila ng time na mag-comply doon sa pinoint out po na mga should be corrected. For example, ulitin ko po yung example ko, I hope ang CAT doesn't mind. Yung pong nakita doon sa insurance coverage ng CAT, ang nakuna po doon, mukhang expired na. Kaya ang ginawa po natin, i-notify natin sila at binigyan sila ng pagkakataon na i-comply yung current insurance coverage. Kaya ginawa po nila yon. Kaya lang binibigyan natin sila ng pagkakataon na hanggang December 8, kailangan may comply nila yon. So, on the second day pa lang po, na-comply na nila yan. Kaya ibig sabihin, wala na po silang pangamba na puputulin yung kanilang pag-participate sa pilot run since na-comply na po nila yon. Kaya magpapatuloy po sila, issue namin po sila ng certificate of compliance.
Honorable Usutan.
So, Mr. Chair, Asik Galvante, pag itong mga 3 operator ng motorcycle taxi ay hindi makapag-comply ng December 8, so hindi na sila makapag-operate. Ganun ba, Mr. Chair?
Tama po ba, Asik? Non-compliance to the requirement will be subjected na hindi po muna bibigyan sila ng tinatawag natin na permit, kundi mami-maintain po ba ang provisional? Your take on this, please, Asik?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yung provisional po is malilit yan upon their compliance. Kaya binibigyan po sila ng time na, for example, yung December 8. Ngayon, kung na-comply na po nila yun before December 8, yung sabi ko nga po, issue sila ng certificate of compliance at magpapatuloy sila. Pero kung hindi po nila na-comply yun, mananatiling hanggang December 8 lang yung kanilang participation at magre-resume po sila na kung kailan po sila makapag-comply.
Maliwanag na pala. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, ang question ko dito na parang parang too strict ba to give to this one, mga taxi motorcycle drivers and operators na 14 days lang sila mag-comply. So, alam natin na nasa tayo, pandemic. Yung ibang compliance dito, baka ma-delete. So, sana mabigyan ito ng extension para sa mga commuters, Mr. Chair. At lastly, Mr. Chair, gusto ko lang i-confirm yung sinabi kanina ni Sec Dizon at saka ni Asik Galvante na tungkol dito sa barriers. So, kanina na-mention yung angkas na barriers at saka joyride adapted na. So, gusto ko lang ito i-confirm na, ipa-confirm kay Asik Galvante na ito lang bang dalawang angkas at saka joyride ang mga barriers na adapted, Mr. Chair?
Asik Galvante, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Sabi ko nga po, yung model na inadapt, hindi po ang LTO nag-set niyan. So, sinusunod lang po natin yung pamantayan ng issue ng NTF, IATF. Kaya, yung model po na present na na-approve ng IATF at saka NTF, yung pong model na present ng ANCAP at saka yung joyride. So yun po ang nagiging susunding pamantayan. Again, yun din pong haba ng binibigay na palugit sa kanila para mag-comply, conforme po yun sa kailangan na i-comply. For example, yung insurance po, hindi pwedeng pahabain yan no? Kung kailan sila magko-comply. In fact, na nagsasakay na sila, huwag naman sana na habang inaantay yung compliance, ipababayaan na sila. Kung may mangyari po, may magkakaproblema po tayo doon. Kaya hanggat maaari, yung nasa urgency po nung pangangailangan natin dinidesisyonan kung gaano kahaba ang ibibigay natin palugit sa kanila. Again, it's not for inconvenience, but rather for the safety. Yung po ang primordial na concern natin dito.
The chair will be appealing to the Honorable Lusutan for his kind understanding kasi inintindi natin saan nanggagaling po ang LTO, DOTR at saka si Asek Galvante. No? Pinintulutan po nila dahil po sa appeal natin na tumakbo na. Kulang po mga papel kaya binibigyan po sila hanggang December 8. No? Pag hindi po na-comply ito, pasensyahan na lang po. Total, I'm hoping na itong tatlong company na nakikinig, I think it's Angkas, Move It or Joyride because of the time constraint. Sana pakinggan po natin maliwanag po ang explanation ni Asik Galvante to comply with all the necessary document. Ang hindi po makakapag-comply, you will not be given your certificate of conveyance. Yung nakakapag-comply naman, sila po ang bibigyan ng certificate. Ito po ngayon temporary lang, no? Para makatakbo ang sinasabi po ng Sec. Dizon kanina, kailangan po ang transportation. Ano itong motorcycle taxi nakikita po natin na isa po sa makakatulong sa shortage po ng transportation. So I think giving more than time to them parang hindi rin ata mapapayagan kasi kinukumply po natin ang strict guidelines ng National Task Force at saka ng IATF.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I agree with you, Mr. Chair, especially on the insurance coverage. Dapat itong insurance coverage, bago pinayagan ngayon ng ating yung NTF, dapat na-comply na ito. May other, yung pakiusap ko, Mr. Chair, na yung iba na aside sa insurance coverage, kung pwede na mabigyan ng reconsideration. But for insurance coverage, there is no compromise. Dapat, sa ngayon pa lang, dapat may insurance coverage na hindi dapat doon sa December 8 na, halimbawa, bukas o ngayon may nadisgrasya. So, sino ngayon ang magsasagot na kung wala pang o expired na ba itong insurance coverage ng ating mga motorcycle taxi operators. Yun lang, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
And on that note, Honorable Lusutan, we request Chairman Galvante, Yusek Galvante, to furnish the committee doon sa guideline po nila na ano po ba itong specific na hiningi po ninyo sa tatlong motorcycle company kung saan po makukomply kung hindi naman po. No? For us to know as well, for the kind consideration of the chairman of the technical working group, if ever time will come na hindi po sila makakapag-comply, do we need to terminate them o papagbibigyan sila ng magkakataon? Thank you so much, Honorable Lusutan. Now, Representative Crisologo. Yes, Secretary Dizon, please.
Mr. Chairman, my apologies po. Just for the information po of the committee and our honorable members, the NTF po fully supports the provisional authority given by the OTR and LTO led by Asek Galvante, TWG, to ensure that the providers all will comply with the necessary guidelines in the memorandum circular of the MTF. Obviously, the issue of insurance is very, very important po to ensure the protection of all our passengers. Thank you very much po, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for the input again, Sec. Now, Representative Onyx Crisologo, because again, we have to terminate the first part of our meeting to give way to the technical working group. It's very urgent on the interoperability to be chaired, of course, by the Honorable Apol Pancho. Representative Onyx Crisologo of the first District of Quezon City, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that we are pressed for time, but if you would indulge me, no, important questions lang po yung tatanungin ko because I was present also at the past committee hearings where we were talking about the TWG. Ang first question ko po, maybe Secretary Vince or Asek Galvante can answer. For my clarification and those of the members na hindi po alam, this would lead to my second question. But my first question, ano po yung compliance na hinihingi nyo from the three companies? May I know lang po.
Kindly respond, please, Asek. What are these requirements that you're asking on the compliance?
Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, una po, yung since yung tatlo pong participants, yung dati pong condition ng compliance for them to submit, yung nauna po nung wala pong pandemic, pinagpapatuloy lang po yan. At ngayon, yung added guidelines na dinahad ng NTF, IATF, wala pong dagdag na other provision na enough. No? Kaya yun lang po ang compliance for them to be given the authority to resume their operation.
Okay, so through you, Mr. Chairman, I would assume these compliances are regarding the safety and health protocols. So, namely the barrier, the scanner, and health declaration form. So, this would lead to my second question po. Actually, if I remember correctly, I was one of those representatives na actually opposed dun sa barrier. Kasi for me, you know, naka-hat and helmet, naka-helmet na nga yung passenger, naka-helmet na nga yung rider. So there's no reason for transmission, of course, but we respect the guidance of the IATF as well as our DOTR secretary. So hayaan na po natin yun, no? Then I was listening earlier that we are now requiring them to, for each passenger, to check their temperatures. Alam niyo po, there is a study na hindi naman talaga effective yung pag-check ng temperature. But of course, sinusunod po natin yan. Ang akin lang po, parang listening to the discussions earlier, parang hindi pa rin po clear kasi it was, hindi, kanina parang, ito nakakakuha po ako ng text from my constituents who are riders themselves. Tanong nila, kami ba magdadala ng scanner o yung motorsiklo ba yung magbibigay ng scanner or may ipapakita ba kaming health declaration? Tama po yung tanong din ni Kong Lusotan kanina na papaano kapag nakarating na sa destinasyon na ibigay na yung proof of health declaration niya, paano pagbabalik ulit? So magpiprint na naman. Parang napaka-complicated po ng system. Siguro ako lang po kung papayagan ng committee as well as ni Asek Galvante as well as ni Secretary Vince, baka naman we can do away with the health with the temperature scanning. Since hindi naman sabi nga ito ay at the discretion naman, baka pwedeng since may barrier na naman, may helmet na naman sila, baka hindi na natin isama to kasi nakaka-confuse po from the riders as well as the passengers itself. Siguro question ko lang ho yun kung papayag ba ang ating departments to do away with the temperature check. Kasi napakahirap po nun from the riders, sila ba yung mag-check ng temperature and you know, they can always say, chinek na ho namin yan kahit meron temperature check. Diba?
From the chair, Honorable Crisologo, this was raised a while ago and good thing you raised it again and ulitin lang ko, papasagutin ko ito kay Asek Galvante but he already responded to this at maliwanag pang sagot niya na hindi po requirement ito. Buti naman marami nakikinig at sinagot rin po ito ni Secretary Dizon. Ulitin ko po ang sagot nila kanina but I will give them again the opportunity. Hindi po kailangan and this was raised by Honorable Nogres because equal protection ang sinasabi niya. Ulitin ko pong sagot kanina on the question again, hindi po minamandato at hindi po kinakailangan yung thermal gun. Yan po ang sagot ni Asek Galvante. Okay. Asek Galvante, will you respond again and again repeat the question?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. Totoo ko yun na hindi rin require yung temperature scanner. At ang sinasabi lang po natin, pinapatupad natin kung ano nakareflect na guidelines doon po tayo basic. Yun lang
Okay.
pong question, temperature is ang tinatanong lang po natin sa operator, sa mga yung sa ating players, kung paano nila maaaring verifyin kung ano yung nakareflect na temperature doon. Again, given the requirement na doon sa format po ng health declaration, may nakalagay doon na temperature. Yun lang po, Your Honor.
Mr.
Pero
Chairman,
emphasize po
if
na
I may
hindi
answer.
required scanner.
So, Mr. Chairman, through you.
Please
So
go on,
clear
Your Honor.
clear po yung sagot ni Asek Galvante, which I agree. Pero kung ganun, babalik po ako sa first question ko. Medyo gray area pa rin po because since hindi rin pala required and there's no new health protocols being installed other than the declaration of the form itself, and sabi po ni Asek, depende po yan kung paano i-check yung temperature, then ano yung compliance na hinihintay natin? Parang gray area po kasi. Parang sasabihin natin sa form, kailangan may temperature check. But they will leave it to the operators on how to do it. Pero ang operators din, hindi rin nila alam paano i-implement yun. So parang medyo magulo lang ho. Then there comes this memorandum circular na they need to comply by December 9 dahil temporary lang ito. If you know, Mr. Chairman, the TWG itself is temporary. It's not permanent. So this is a temporary solution to a temporary solution. So paano po paano po yan?
So you're suggesting that alisin na muna ang sa question tungkol sa temperature, Your Honor?
Well, that is my suggestion, but of course we leave it to the experts kasi parang gray area pa rin po, no? Yun
So
lang
maybe seek the
yeah.
We seek the response of Asek Galvante again, the Secretary Vince Dizon on the temperature, considering na hindi naman kailangan yung thermal gun. And this is again based on the different guideline issued by IATF and NTF. Yes, please, Sec Vince.
Chairman, if I may po, very quick lang po. As I thank you so much sa kay Congressman Onyx. Maraming salamat, sir. Babasahin ko lang po ulit, no? Sa ating existing na memorandum circular on the guidelines for motorcycle taxi, ang temperature check po ay rini-require ang submission ng body temperature ay explicitly po rini-require under section 6.1.6 for the motorcycle taxi driver. The same requirement is not for the motorcycle taxi passenger. I just want to make that very clear po in the guidelines.
Oh, okay.
Yun lang po.
So, ulitin ko lang, Honorable Onyx, ulitin ko lang pong sagot para doon sa po nakikinig sa mga kapatid natin, no, na tungkol sa nagmumotor. Siguro madali pong gawin ito because there are three major players in the industry sa motorcycle. Bago po magtrabaho si driver, kailangan po kukunin yung temperature. No? And,
so, Chairman, through you,
sa passengers, yes, please.
Clear po yung sagot ni Secretary. So, this is for the driver, not the passenger. Tama po ba yung pagkakaintindi ko, Secretary Vince?
Again,
Based
Vince, please, you recognize?
Yes, tama po, sir, Mr. Chairman, Congressman Onyx, na dito sa present guidelines natin, yung temperature check po ay explicit para sa motorcycle taxi driver under section 6.1.6.
Okay.
Dito sa motorcycle passenger, ang rini-require po na isa-submit, na gagawin, ay yung pag-fill out po ng health declaration form via the DOTR accredited motorcycle taxi app prior to booking the ride under section 6.2.6. Para lang po very clear po tayo kung ano yung nakalagay sa current guidelines, Congressman Onyx and Mr. Chairman.
Anything else, Honorable
Yes.
Onyx?
I'll go to my third question, Mr. Chairman. Siguro,
please,
just to put a bookmark on the question. This is a TWG that has been going on for many months and years already. Do we see an end to this TWG? Kasi, di ba, the goal po is that of the TWG is to gather data with regards to its effectiveness, not just in Metro Manila, but in the whole country. It was revealed during the last hearing, I don't remember if it was Metro Manila Committee or Transportation, na hindi pala nakakapagbigay ng data or hindi nako-collect yung data before. So has the DOTR or the TWG been getting data enough so that Congress can be guided to enact a law to implement the motorcycle taxi?
The chairperson will respond to the question. There was a report submitted to us by the technical working group. It was a premature report brought about by pandemic. No, this was signed by Asek Galvante. However, on that report, it clearly was stated that there are stats that we need from the ICT, and we have to get the report as well from the Visayas and Mindanao. However, we cannot resume the technical working group, the basis of the technical working group, because we have to see clearance first from IATF and of course the National Task Force. House Resolution 1286, of course, which was adopted in plenary, was submitted to them 16 October of this year, and it was responded right away by the National Task Force and the IATF, coming up with the guideline. This one is submitting it to the Department of Transportation through the Office of Secretary Galvante. Now, we cannot yet come up with a good report because this is the first time that they're going to run. I'm hoping that Secretary Galvante, Asek Galvante, will right away come up on the basis now of the resumption of the motorcycle taxi. We just resumed today, and we were hoping to give them 3 more months for us to have the clear picture. And finally, the chairman of the technical working group for the amendment of 4136 to allow this time the two-wheel vehicle will have the technical report of all the aspects that they need for us really to amend RA 4136.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that. So we will await the data from them. Pero last question, Mr. Chairman. I was looking at the press statement of TOTR. Now, sabi po ni ASEC and ni Sec Vince kanina, if I can recall again, last na po, Mr. Chairman, this was yung pag-check ng thermal health declaration is, kumbaga, it's depende sa pag-declare. It's not really, what was the word used? Hindi siya mandated, or kumbaga, depende for, I don't know what word was used earlier, no? But the title of the press statement was mandatory use of thermal scanners to accurately detect if the passenger has fever. Yan po yung nakalagay sa kanilang press statement. But we're discovering today sa hearing, hindi mandatory. So, ibig sabihin, mali po yung press release ng DOTR yesterday?
Do we have Secretary, ASIC Steve Pastor of the Department of Transportation, because the agency mentioned is DOTR, and I'm hoping that you will concur of the PR or the press release yesterday. Kasi
if I might read lang po.
Kinaklaro po natin ito kasi gumugulo po, magre-react na naman po sa ground. Yes, please go on.
Ito po kasi, ito yung press statement. The Motorcycle Taxi Technical Working Group has decided today to also issue other operators with the provisional authority pending discussions on the mandatory use of thermal scanners to accurately detect if the passenger has fever. So yun, kasi nakalagay po mandatory. Can DOTR clarify?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ASEC Steve Pastor. Ayusin lang po natin ito para mag-terminate na po tayo. I am appealing, no? Ulitin po natin, ang issue at hand ay ang temperature, no? At ang statement po kahapon, nire-require, it seems to appear, nire-require po yung thermal gun, kaya medyo nagkaroon ng counting reaction sa ground, lalo na yung mga nagmumotor, no? And the reason why the Honorable Onyx Crisologo is raising this up. ASEC Steve, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm not doing this to scold the departments, no. Actually, we appreciate them doing this for the riders, but kasi iba po yung statement ng LTO kanina. So just kumbaga to magkaroon lang ng para on the same page lahat po ng ating department. Thank you.
Asik Steve, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Honorable Crisologo. We have to clarify lang, sir, no, na what we are trying to determine is yung temperature check nga po for the passengers. And tama po yung nabanggit ni Asek Galvante na we are discussing it with the operators kung paano nga po ma-determine ito. And so far, as yesterday, pinag-uusapan nga po if yung may thermal gun, so on and so forth po. But the bottom line, Mr. Chair, is that we would like to determine po yung accuracy ng declaration ng temperature. And this has been clearly stated po by Secretary Vince. And of course, the PWG po will act accordingly, Mr. Chair. Thank you po.
So will it, Honorable Crisologo?
Mr. Chairman, I think that doesn't answer the question. So ang tanong, mandatory po ba yung thermal scanner or not?
As pointed out po by Asek Galvante, Mr. Chair, is that yung inaalam po dito is yung temperature check. As to the mandatory use of scanners po, hindi po siya imposed by the technical working group.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you.
So anything else, Honorable Crisologo?
That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I will abide by the guidance of the committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else from the members
Mr.
of the
Chair.
House?
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Mr. Chair.
yes,
Mr. Chair.
Honorable Pancho, please.
Yes, I'll just give way to Vice Chair Jam. I'll give way to Vice Jam.
Honorable Vice Chair Jam, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, naka-mute yata yung video ko. Naka-disable po.
No, okay, we can hear you loud and
Okay,
clear.
yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I just wanted to be consistent sa stand ko sa this committee. I would just like to make a manifestation, Mr. Chair, to move for the TWG of this committee to start immediately as the providers and ski players have started operating, Mr. Chair. So we can already discuss key features and substantial content of the bill, Mr. Chair, that will help us in crafting the law for MC taxi, Mr. Chair. So with this, Mr. Chair, I move, Mr. Chair.
So there's a motion for us to, for the technical working group to act appropriately on the amendments of 4136, of course, subject to the report that will be furnished to us by the technical working group of the Land Transportation Office headed by Asik Galvante.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Do we hear any
Mr.
second
Chair?
to the motion? Yes.
Mr. Chair, before the approval of the motion, dun sa taxi, tanong ko lang po, since itinatransport po natin yung mga tao using these motorcycles, tanong ko lang po, nakapag-put up po ba yung LTO or yung agency na in charge para dun sa pinaka parang call center na kung sakaling yung mga riders po natin ay biglang nagkaroon ng sakit o problema through na COVID. I mean, para mas mabilis pong matrace. Alam po ba ng mga riders natin kung saan sila ko-contact just in case? Considering po na, tanong ko rin po, yung helmet po ba? Dahil kung sharing po yung helmet, so mas malaki po yung chance na mahawa sila kung meron mang COVID yung mga pasahero. So meron bang isang number na tatawagan just in case na sila ay sumakay po dun sa mode of transportation ng by motorcycle, ay meron silang tatawagan para inform, para at least mas madali po ang pag-trace, not only yung sa papel po.
Since this is Operation Asa Galvante, we will recognize anyone from Angkas or Move It or Joyride to respond to the question raised by the Honorable Pancho. Pag nagkasakit po ba, ano po ba ang paano po natin dinidetermine sa system natin at malalaman kaagad?
Hi, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon po. This is George Riega from Angkas. Vice
You're
Chair.
recognized? Yes, please, you're recognized, Mr. George Riega of Angkas.
Mr. Chair, Congressman Pancho, Vice Chair Pancho po, good afternoon. Yes po, sir, we have a 24/7 customer service. And we have digital contact tracing instituted po din sa app po, no, sir. So nandun po yun, kasama po yung privacy section doon, in which case we do collect the data, but also only for strict use for contact tracing. So that will be shared po with the government authorities as per the protocols set forth by the National Privacy Commission, sir. So kasama po yung contact tracing efforts doon sa ating sa app na naka-integrate na po siya. Hopefully that answers the question, Vice Chair.
So alam nila yung tatawagan. Like for example, rider ako, yes, user ako, sumama pakiramdam ko and then I tested positive. Meron akong alam na number na tatawagan. Like for example, sa angkas ako sumakay, tatawagan ko to inform you para mas mabilis na magkaroon ng contact tracing.
Tama po yan, Vice Chair. Thank you po, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, nakamute po kayo, Mr. Chair.
From the chair, naulitin ko lang, can you walk us through dito sa tanong po ni Honorable Apol? Pancho, halimbawa may sakit po, paano nyo ginagawa agad para naintindihan po natin for everyone to know? How do you do it? Just based on your explanation. Mr. Raika Angkas.
Sir, first of all, sir, we do RT-PCR tests on our bikers po. Our bikers also have a daily health declaration form that they must send to us. Tapos meron po tayong regular check-up din po with them. Naka-institute na po yun as part of our protocols during this time of COVID. Before pre-COVID po, meron po tayong mga medical check-ups on a regular basis. I-increase po natin.
Mr. Raika, George, ulitin ko yung tanong niya. Halimbawa may nagkasakit na pasahero na or yung driver mismo, paano yung contact tracing nyo? Paano ginagawa yan?
So lahat po ng travel history natin, Mr. Chair, is recorded. So we can see po kung sino po yung naging close contacts nila, at least specific to the riding po. So meron po tayong customer service that alam po ng ating mga bikers, pati ng passengers that they call. So matagal na po to, for the last how many years po, ito po yung same customer service na tinatawagan po nila.
So pero, madali matrace.
Voluntary po yan. Pero po, dun sa involuntary naman po, kunyari po, hindi po nila sabihin, declare na masama po yung pakiramdam nila, meron po tayong mga regular health check-ups to be able to figure out po kung meron po silang mga simptomas. Thank you po, Mr. Chair.
Okay. About from Joyride or Move It, on the question raised by the Honorable Pancho.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is Noli Iyala po from Joyride.
Good afternoon, Noli. Can you respond?
The distinguished members of this committee. Yes, sir. I think one of the major points for the resumption of the motorcycle taxi, I think that was taken up, was the natural element of contact tracing in our mobile application. When a passenger books a ride or a trip in our app, they are immediately their information is immediately gathered, and of course their pickup and destination is also included, and therefore we have a natural way of tracing where passengers are brought, and if there is a need to actually get in touch with them. Just like what George said, our riders are also, as required by the guidelines, required to submit a health declaration form every morning. And this is done also digitally through our app. So immediately this is stored in our databases. So again, the natural element of the application, the mobile application, makes it very easy to trace any possible contagion if there is a case such as that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that, Noli. Anyone else on the question raised by the Honorable Pancho? From, I think you have Move It. Kung mayroon andyan po. Yes? Do you have someone from Move It before?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, Sam.
Sam, yes, from Move. Yes, you recognize?
Are complete. Yung sa app namin, we can trace everything. Everything is recorded. Easily traceable.
Okay. Very good. Anything else, Honorable Pancho?
No more, Mr. Chair.
To Asik Galvante, before we terminate this part one, have you checked the system of the three companies pertinent to the question raised by the Honorable Pancho? Nakita niyo po ito, Asik, yung gano'n po kadali nila matitrace kung mayroong magrereklamo na siyempre sumakay ako doon, nagka-COVID. Nakita niyo ito doon sa system nila?
Mr. Chairman, honorable members, personally po ako hindi ko nakita yan, pero meron po kami inspection team at isa yan po sa tinatanong nila at sila po ang nagbibigay ng report sa amin kung na-comply o hindi. So far po, wala pong punta ng mga sa dalawang na-inspect, kaya po nabigyan sila ng authority to review. Ang inaantay lang po nung move it na nag-request po ng inspection ng this Friday. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So I think we have addressed already thoroughly the first part of the meeting for today, House Resolution 1367 and the boards of motorcycle taxi. Ulitin ko lang po bago po i-terminate ang Mother Committee hearing to give way, of course, for the technical working group, and I seek the guidance, the clear understanding of the chairman, Apol Pancho, and the members, of course, the authors. Humingi po ang chairman ng pasensya at medyo tumagal po. So unang first issue po dito po sa tungkol sa extension po, tuloy po ang programa ng concessionaire. Kanya lang what was moved, nagkaroon po ng motion, ipopostpone muna implementation ng RFID hanggang January. Ikikiusap po tayo pero tuloy-tuloy na po ang programa nila. Pangalawa po ang DTI at DICT kasama po sa technical working group, no, para ma-inspect ang system ng mga concessionaires. At saka may suggestion rin po kanina na napakaganda, isasama na lang po ng toll regulatory board sa programa po nila. Panghuli po dito sa una, itong sticker po na sana masama na dito po sa Land Transportation Office ang lahat po ng stickering events sa mga bagong sasakyan. Dito naman po sa motorsiklo, maliwanag po na pinaintindi sa atin ng Secretary po, Vince Dizon, tungkol po rito sa thermal gun at inulit po ito ni Asik Galvante. At sinabi po nila hindi po natin pwedeng baguhin ang guideline po ng IATF, National Task Force, kung hindi po idadaan sa kanila. Susundin naman po ito ng Department of Transportation at ng Office po ng Land Transportation, headed of course by Asik Galvante. Kami po ay nagpapasalamat sa lahat ng resource person na sumama. Alam ko po hindi ko na mabanggit ng isa. Ako taos puso po nagpapasalamat po sa pagdalo po ninyo sa hearing natin ngayong hapon. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, there's a pending motion and no?
There's a pending motion.
Yeah, there's a pending motion. Did you hear a second on the motion for the technical work?
Second
the motion. Motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The first part of the hearing for today is now terminated, and on the part of on behalf of the committee, again on transportation, the chair, the members, and all present, doon po sa naapektuhan po ng bagyo, kami po ay taos puso pong nakikiramay po sa inyo. Sa namatayan po, lalo't lalo na siraan ng mga bahay, no? Pero life must go on. Kaya kahapon po, matagal pong pinag-usapan dahil po rito sa instruction po ng speaker namin, si Lord Velasco, na i-address muna ano po talaga nangyari. At wari ko naman may gagawin po. Ulitin ko po, kami po nagpapasalamat sa lahat ng resource person at kami po nakikiramay. Ulitin po, doon po sa nawalan ng buhay, nawalan ng hanap buhay, at nawalan po ng kadami-daming sabihin natin, gamit po nila sa bahay. At from the chair as well, the members of the Committee on Transportation and the members of 18th Congress, we want to thank once again the Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Philippine National Police, the Bureau of Fire Protection, the barangay officials, the local chief executives. Doon po halos magpakamatay na. Masalba lang po ang buhay ng malapit ng malunod. At sana po, hindi na ito mangyari po sa buhay natin. Thank you, Lord, for everything. Maraming salamat po sa resource person natin ngayon at sa colleagues ko. The first part is now terminated to give way to the technical working group chaired by the Honorable Apol Pancho.
Thank you, Mr.
Meeting terminated.
Thank you po.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have a good afternoon po, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon.